want to be. First of all, before I starting you can put on the slideshow, but I'll before getting into the main topic. So role of grasslands. I would like to know all of you. I think you must be already being the postgraduates in zoology. You must be having an idea about the wildlife and other life forms actually. We have, when you compare the life in wild and life in domesticated, it's totally a different world actually. Our country, when we go to the geography of the country, we have different sort of ecosystems. Forest is one such ecosystem, and grasslands are part of the forest ecosystem as well as the adjoining. If you have been, 20 years back, 30 years back, you'll be looking at some lands called Gomala lands. All the villages, all the even the small, even Bangalore used to have Gomadas, that Kaval areas also we call. So the Vayali Kaval, the very beautiful city has come up now. That's a Kaval area. So Kavals are meant for grazing. They're the grazing lands, basically grasslands. So we had that ecosystems which were adjoining to the forest, the Gomada lands. Of late, we don't find all these Gomadas, grasslands, what so we call. They have been, culprit. They have been used, misused rampantly for various developmental activities. All big, multi-story buildings, all the roads, all other network, everything. These are the poor pieces of land which have been targeted by us for the developmental activities. Most of the farmers now come to us, give a permanent solution to the man-animal conflict, or rather elephant conflicts, basically human-elephant conflicts, what we call. So we should have I should say always no to that, because there is no solution to that, because we have been exploited. We are exploited, actually exploiting also continuously. The source of food, that was the grassland ecosystem, has been exploited as already. We have been almost nil, if we say that in that way. On record, India has around 24% of the area under grassland cover. On record it is. But if you go to the field, hardly anything left over. Barring the higher reaches of mountains and Himalayas and Terai belt. Rest is all been exploited by us only. So that way, so this is the new outline of what I'm going to speak actually. And when we entered a service and we interacted with our senior officers, even in the Karnataka and Mysore area who served here, so 70s, officers of 70s, 80s, whenever they used to go to forest areas, even in the Nagarole, the high Bandipur, so hardly they had a sighting of tigers. And elephant was there. The elephant number was as good as today's numbers, but there was no conflict. Conflict was very minimal because the plenty of grassland ecosystems available, and it was being used, and there was no habitation very close by the forest ecosystems. Now, this is over the 30-40 years of survey time period. Now, the people entering service now, like us, will have a different set of problems. So my officers used to tell, when we hardly sighted a tiger in the Nagarole. Now every day we have sighting in Nagarole Bandipur. You can any day come, you get a sighting of a tiger. And many reasons to that. One is 1972 Forest Wildlife Protection Act and Forest Conservation Act 1980. We had been under British rule for 200 odd years, and then all of these natural resources like forest and wildlife, they were hunted very Whenever they will, at their wish, they wish to hunt the animals. They used to go to forest, cut the trees. So that was the will and wish of the Britishers to do this. So they did not only damage the uh, economy of the state country, they also damaged the ecology of this country. Of course, they had come up with few laws. One of the oldest laws is the 1927 Indian Forest Act, but hardly there was a protection for wild animals. We didn't have a very stringent laws to protect the wild animals. So, thanks to Srimati Indira Gandhi, who was a visionary and basically she was an environmentalist by heart. So she had come up with the Wildlife Protection Act, Forest Conservation Act, Air Act, Water Act. All these acts are the contributions of the great Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister of the state country. Now, this has contributed to the protection. When we started our, you must be knowing, Banjipur is one of the earliest tiger reserves of the country. In 1973, she launched the then Prime Minister Srimati Indira Gandhi launched the Project Tiger, because then at that point of time the number of tigers are only 1,827. So you mind it, 1,827. But 1 century back, numbers were 40,000. From 40,000 in a century's time, it has come down to thousands. So just 1,187. That was the number when we started the Project Tiger. But there were any takers for the Project Tiger. Hardly we had 9 tiger reserves notified across the country. And today we have 50 tiger reserves across the country. Different 17, 18 states are being covered under Project Tiger. Though after 1973 also, we had in 2006 when we made an assessment, our tiger population was still low, 1,411. We say 1,411, that is the number they say, but something running around 1,400s. So, and from there we started. What has happened? Because the major thing is ecosystem damage. Ecosystem damage was the key for loss of our wildlife. I understand, I know you must be having the concepts of keystone species and all this thing. You must have learned through your study graduation. And indicator species and all. These are the species actually which indicate the health of the ecosystems. More the number of tigers in your reserves, in your protected areas, in your forest, means your ecology is well protected. Your environment is well protected. That's an indication. That's the key stone species we call. Now, from there, 2006, now we have reached the numbers of 3,000, approximately 3,000 numbers in a matter of just another 12, 13 years. How is it possible? How was it possible? One is protection. Protection started in 1973, but apart from protection, much more needed to be done, which was not done in the earlier times. That was ecosystem management. Initially, through improper or maybe unknowingly, some unscientific ways of management were done. Sorry. So we have lost the direction, in fact, maybe. Of late, it was some so-called environmentalist or somebody or taken over the departmental job. They had misguided the department and the government through their policies. Thanks to that, today we have the biggest problem of eradicating our lantana, Nipotorium, such set of a weed that has come up in our forests, thanks to the pseudo-environmentalist, what we say. So now I'm happy that you are coming up in the future. Maybe some of you may enter into the conservation field, and you'll be contributing to the conservation of wildlife as well, as I guess. I'm happy that I'll be able to address you all these issues. Grassland is one of the very prominent ecosystems which needs to be given a utmost importance. Most of the time we say we list grasslands for woods. Forest department and the nation was after growing the trees, and we missed out protecting our grasslands. Much before, we should have taken control of the Gomala lands, which was outside our boundaries. If that was done, today we would not have faced such a big problem of protecting our wildlife and that conflict situation that I'm going through right now. So with this background, and just go to the slide by slide. I will just take you around the grasslands, what they are, what the types of grasslands. So now how we are trying to getting back to the grassland ecosystem back. So this is what I'm going to do it. But I'm sure actually whatever I'm putting it is all academic by this thing. Rest, whatever I say through my experience, I will speak. Please, next one. Okay. Oh, please then. Okay, fine. So broadly, covering this heads actually, I'll introduce what is a grassland, what sort of a ecosystem it is, then the types, then the communities that have been we group into, then how it is important for ungulates or the herbivores mostly, and now what grassland management now we are been handling in the forest areas. Then what the role of these grasslands, then what are threats and the payment of what we are doing right now. So as showed here, grasslands basically is a community of predominantly of grasses, graminoids, grass and grass-like plants. This is basically grassland ecosystem. When any pure grassland, so 90% will be covered by the grasses, and 10% by the woody species. And if it is between 10 to 40, we call it a savanna type of grasslands and savanna ecosystems. That's mostly we have it in an extent in African ecosystem, tropical ecosystem, and even in India we have savanna types ecosystem. Bandipur was a prominent savanna grassland, which has been by our past unscientific management is converted into sort of a woody land now, and some of them is covered with the lantana and eupatorium, all this parthenium, all such weed categories now. So that major families, the Poaceae is one of the major contributor to the grass family, and Cyperaceae and other Fabaceae. These are 3-4 families that we have which covers the grasslands. So as I said, grasslands are a very dynamic ecosystem. What we see when I joined Bandipur in the month of November, so I used to always wonder how come this so much of elephants, tigers, all these herbivores were right away in my residence. And I start from a date, that is, if you have come to the visit, I don't know how many of you visited Bandipur. From Melkamnalli, there's an entry point of the Bandipur Tiger Reserve from this side. Hardly 6 kilometers into my house, I used to find at least 45-50 elephants roaming on the roads. And deer, sambas, I have countless. I can't count actually. So many grass. The dynamic ecosystem exists in the grasslands. Go to any other high forest, because if you have been to the Western Ghats areas, maybe Kudremukh or Karwar areas and all, you find tall trees. You'll be happy and will be say, oh, beautifully. This is actually forest. This is a forest. No. Forests are different types. That is one type of forest. The diversity of Western Ghat is totally different from the diversity of the the Bandipur, or that is a savanna type of grassland. That's what we see here in Bandipur. Dynamism is here because if you go to the high forest areas, the mostly the diversity you see in the top canopy levels. You'll be seeing a lot of langurs, macaques, and all such squirrels. All such diversity is found in the high forest areas. You come to the grassland type of ecosystem, you find all sort of deer, sambar, working deer, mouse deer, antlers, all variety of these things. You will find it may be there, but numbers will very, very less. Reason is grassland is very, very important because there are very few species which can reach to the top canopy for their food needs. Only elephant, we don't have giraffe here. Some of the species which have a reach to the top only can depend on the tree species which give the fodder thing. The rest of the thing, they have to depend on the ground, shrubs, herbs, and the grasses. Those are the major. The dynamism and the diversity that you see in a grassland ecosystem is much more beyond the wetland or wet forest ecosystem. And this is what the major fauna you see. That are microfauna also, which we don't even see also. That's also been, these grasslands are contributors for the micro and macro fauna diversity. So this grassland is very, very important ecosystem. It needs to be tackled. This is, I already told you, there are a lot of threat. We never considered a grassland as an important ecosystem. Threats are many. I already told you. Mafia lands, we have developmental local land mafia has converted the lands into gomadas into different types of forms of land. Now there are villages there, towns there, cities there. Apart from that, burning of the grasslands have been burnt. They have been subjected to a rampant firing, and also there is encroachment is again there. So other than that, there is a grazing pressure from the domestic cattle as well. This is just an academic interest. There are different type of major grasslands, prairies, pampas, then savannas in Africa. Then in even India also we have this. If you go to Kudremukh, come to BT, Bandipur also we have in Gopalswamy, Shola type of grasslands. In Madkeri, Coorg area we have Shola, different forest ecosystem. So these are the major types of major grasslands which are very unique grasslands we find in the globe. Just a classification. As there are majorly on the basis of the species that have been found, a group of species we have put in grassland into 5 major types. So in southern India we have around 2 to 3 types of this one. Mostly we have in Himalayan also Terai we have something. So only first one is the Sehima, which we have here, Decanthium is in Pondi and Deccan Plateau areas. In our Bandipur also we find this ecosystem here. Decanthium, Synchros and Lacerus, this is mostly in the lower altitudes. It is not very much in this northern part of the country. We find this ecosystem in the Gujarat, Rajasthan, Aravalli areas. So third one is Pragmates, Saccharum and this ecosystem. That's again further higher up it goes, and some of them are even found in here also, because we have altitudinally we are also having some of the hills here. So we find this also in Karnataka. Thimada is one grass ecosystem, is very high presence in Bandipur and all parts of Karnataka. Many wherever we go, Thimada grass is one of the major grass species that we find. This is very much present in Deccan Plateau. Temperate, we don't find here. It's mostly temperate alpine. One is Himalayan forest, Himalayan area we find in India. So communities, again, we group into different coastal, mountain, then three, five, four categories are there. Coastal grasslands, again, coastal, we have three different types of coastal, marine, salt water, and then mangrove types. There are three different types. Different type of species we find in different type of, when the salt level vary, when the brackish waters comes in, the grasses we find is different. On the salt water, we have the different type of grasses we find. Major dominant grass species I'm talking about. So riverine, that is mostly in the river belts, the main rivers, Ganges and all these plain areas, we find riverine grassland ecosystem. So mountain grassland, one of the mountain grassland type is the Shola. That's very much found in Karnataka and Deccan Plateau areas, many other parts. Sub-Himalayan grasslands, so that is actually very important. You must have been heard of Corbett Tiger Reserve, Terai Belt. We have, there's a, when the mountain Himalaya merges into the plains that bend to the slope, that is called as Terai Belt area. So those areas we get tall grasses. So because of this tall grass, available tall grass, we find a lot of tigers in Corbett because herbivore population grows up. The cover is available. And the reason that we should hear only the names of carpet when it comes to the tiger. We never had our Nagrole or Bandipur never in the picture earlier when the Project Tiger took off. In fact, Nagrole was not even the first of the tiger reserves. Only the Bandipur could make it to the first tiger reserve of the country. Only Carbet, Panna, then Khana, these were the names which were figuring out because of this. These are the ecosystem that was supporting that one. So tropical savanna I already spoke about. Wet grasslands, these are the aquatic ones. So grasses, when we look into this is very important actually. There are different type of grasses. When you go to the grassland, we say something, at this point of time, most of the grasslands will be dry. Nothing available. So looking very, nothing is available for the herbivore species because there are only annual types available. Wherever there is a annual grasses will be drying up. Maybe in the month of January, they start dying up. Till that time, so lot of grass available. So the ideal grassland should have a mix of this annual and perennial grasses because to keep the animal activity in that area and to provide continuous fodder to the animals, the ideal grassland should have a mix of the annual as well as perennial grasses. Further, there are two important guys. Another important point is to have the palatability. If the grassland has any grass less than 60% of palatable grasses, that's again will not support a good faunal diversity. At least the good any grassland which has more than 60% of palatable grasses. Some of the grasses we say, Vetiveria zizonides, cassile, the aromatic grasses, they're not good, not fit for the consumption by the animals. They are good. They're good soil binders. They also grass. But they are not fit for consumption. So they are not palatable. So the ratio of palatability, at least 60% is is and above, is a good considered to be good for the consumption and for the support of the diversity and herbivore population. So this has to be kept in mind when we talk about the grassland management, because unless we know which is annual grass, which is a perennial grass, which is palatable, which is non-palatable. So otherwise, what we do, our staff or people, whichever the grasses they see, they collect and put into the system. So it has happened. It has happened in case of Rani Bennuru Wildlife Sanctuary 4-5 years back. Some of the experts went and suggested some species. They put it. Now they are grown very good. Grassland looks very excellent. Grass cover is there, but no use for the wildlife. So because there is not palatable, it is giving a good cover, but not palatable. So palatability is a very important factor we need to consider when you develop and manage the foreign grasslands ecosystems. So what we see actually in India, uh, we there's a debate actually where India never had a grassland ecosystem. That was all. Most of the grasslands in India are anthropological in origin because of our disturbance or we damaged our woody cover, settled there, did agriculture or something, and we have cleared the area, made open spaces. There the grassland have come up. That was mostly understood like this, barring the high reaches of where nothing grows, no tree species come like in Shola area and in case of Himalayan areas. So high reaches where no agriculture is possible and only with those species it was by environmental factors have resulted into a grassland ecosystem. Apart from that, majority of the grassland that we find in India are anthropological interventions actually. We are because of our own agriculture practices, somebody sometime back we had ended away years ago. And now they've been converted into as a grassland ecosystem. If you talk about Bandipur, we had around 42 villages right inside the tiger reserve area, which was relocated and relocated around 30 years back. So now those are the areas where villages existed and villages did a lot of agriculture there. Now they are actually a grassland. They have been excellent grassland now. Those are plain areas they select normally. We go for a good quality soil, plain lands for agriculture. Then that becomes open already, and there was no other tree species coming up immediately. Grasses and other small shrubby species takes place in succession. So that succession has come in on the grassland. Most of the grasslands in India are anthropogenic origin. So, a 2006 report, that's what I was saying. 2006, before that, actually, the tiger number I was referring you. So, it was 1411. 2006, there was an expert committee, and they said most of the forest areas are not fit for, doesn't support the, good herbivore population. Livestock pressure is very high. So now that time, that is the reason. After that, the thinking has changed over. The ecosystem management has come in place. So now, grassland was considered very, very important setup in the wildlife management. So I already talked about 72, 73 Project Tiger. I have talked about. So tiger reserves I already said. So now tiger reserves around 28 at that time 2005. Now it has gone to the 50. So when when we look into forest ecosystems, forest grassland ecosystems, the herbivores or any other animal, they are very very selective. They know where is the food, water available for them, and what time is right for them. They only choose that. They are very, my destination is chief conservator of forest. But actual conservation is are these animals. Actual conservation is the nature because they know how much to take from the nature, how much to leave it back, and which we don't know. Really, we don't know. We keep exploiting the nature for whatever the thing till it gets completely deployed of the resources. But they selectively choose the areas. Today, if they graze in particular area, tomorrow they same set of herd will not come to that area. You can map it, study the behavior. The same set of herd will not definitely be in that area. They will be choosing a different area, and their feeding is also very very time also very very particular. If you come to this many part, not just Bandipur. Bandipur also take because I'm working in Bandipur. You come to Manipur, as I said, in November, December, I should see a lot of elephants, deer, some are roaming around in the right in the entrance of the park. At this point of time, we are not finding many. Where are they gone? Yes, They have their chooses. They choose now these grasses in the high reaches, that the area where entrance is located, that is in a high reach. The moisture is very less there, and the grasses have dried up. The fodder has come down. They have chosen to go to the valley portions where water is there, moisture is just available. Moist condition is available, water is available. So now they animals have a very very kind of idea where and when and how much to take up from the nature. So normally active animal activity also vary from time. Morning, they restrict to the for example grazers and browsers. There are two categories of herbivores. The browsers normally they remain inside these cover areas in the day hours, and they come into the open areas, grasslands in the night. They come out. But the grazers, they're like deers and small herbivores. They choose to be in open areas. They're allowed to be in open areas in day hours also. So this was I was talking about. So now coming to the grassland management. So when the word comes management, why should we manage? The reason because unless we manage it properly, we will not be able to achieve the results that we are looking for. Which we did, I had repeatedly, I'm telling repeatedly, because the management is very, very important. Unless we understand the dynamics of the grassland ecosystem, we can't manage it. So we need to focus on the dynamics of the grassland ecosystem or any other ecosystem for that matter. How much to intervene, when to intervene, and what sort of a species that we have to intervene in that area. So now, when we chosen to from 2006 onwards, we chosen to manage the grasslands. So these are the major steps that we followed actually. One is selection of the site. Which sites to be developed into grasslands? Not all the sites are can be developed. We need to identify the sites that are fit for grassland ecosystem. Then you have to identify the grass. Otherwise, we'll end up in spreading all sort of grasses which are totally not required. So identification of weeds, very, very important actually. Weeds are most adapted species because they can survive. Even if you take out the thing, that seeds can survive for 3 years, 4 years in dormancy, and they can come up. And the roots, if you left, leave the roots, they will again sprout back. They have different adaptability. They are very, very hardy species. So we need to identify the weeds, and we have to identify the other than weeds. There will be some of the important non-grass shrubs species, which are maybe leguminous nature basically. They'll be helpful for fixation of nitrogen as well as they'll be contributing as a fodder also. So we need to classify when you develop a grassland, identify the grasses, identify the weeds. We need to eradicate the weeds. So I say avoid leguminous plants. So then methods, we have to choose the proper method of restoration. We can't just keep on doing any other thing because we have been tested, we have tried and tested. So I will tell you about that, how restoration has been taken up. Then seed ball is one of the ways to take up the restoration work. Then habitat improvement works. So when it comes to the site selection, so normally what we happen is we consider the grasses are having a very shallow root system. They are mostly fibrous root system they have. So they normally come up in a shallow soils, though where people penetration is not possible. One is that, and there's a natural system. But when we develop as a new areas to be developed covered as grasslands, then we need to be very, very selective. When the area is very close to the habitations, we discard such areas for converting it to grassland because the animal population and the herbivore numbers reaching that points will increase. It will attract a lot of problems that conflicts between the people and animals increase. So that's one reason why we don't select any of the bordering areas across the forest areas for converting into grassland or development into grasslands. Second point is availability of water. So because when the animal comes, animals will be looking for two things. One is three things in fact: water, food, and shelter. The three major things in wildlife management or any fauna management. The three simple things you have to keep it in mind. So water, wherever the water is available, so the permanent source of water, not just temporarily will be available for 1 month or 2 months, and the next month will be dried up. So all normally we have to identify a natural source or a artificial source of water body where water is available throughout the year, maximum number period of the year. So we have been identifying such lands in all over across national parks. Especially, we have created a solar powered tanks which will be having water throughout the year. And similarly, there are some streams around backwaters. All these areas we select and we convert them into the grassland ecosystems. And already there will be indication is already there. Previously, there is grassland existing in that area, means that is a grassland already there. So we need to choose such areas as well. So then another criteria is to go for the herbivore number. If you frequency of sighting herbivore is more, means that area needs to be converted into a developed area as a grassland. These are 4-5 criteria when we have to consider when we have to develop into a grassland. So second most important activity in a grassland management is the weed management. If you have been, of course, I don't know how many of you got opportunity to visit these areas. The Lantana, Parthenium, Buddhagram has taken much of our forest land floors. Because initially it came as a byproduct for us, and it has been the main product now. Okay, and so it has become such a main product. We are trying to invent new items to be made out of lantana to support. Okay, so we are selling lantana furniture, lantana made articles, all these things. It's a good species. Verbenaceous family. It's coming as it's very good species, but it's a prominent weed. It allows no other species to come under it. Allelopathic effect is there and very adaptive. And once that comes up, it comes up as a carpet. No animal, animal will have a tough time moving inside the thing. If you have been, the animal will be standing right there, will not be able to sight it because it's all covered with it. Such a thick carpet it comes with. So weed management is very, very important when it comes to the grassland management ecosystem. So we need to identify, when we are now going for making herbariums of grasses, herbariums of the weeds that exist in that area. So to show to the staff, people, that these are the species we need to constantly monitor and remove in the weed when it comes to the weed. So if you have seen the pictures over here, there's a lantana. So uprooting, there is no just cutting and leaving it. If you leave it, the roots will immediately come back in more vigorously than it was before. The only way out is to completely take out from the root. And again, there will be one single seed are left over. It will be naturally will be left over. So again, when we do such activity, we always go for uprooting before lantana flowers, because this year's flower, next year there will be in 3-4 months there will be seeding will be there, and there will again be already last year's seeds will be available in the floor. Even if we uproot it now, the seeds of last year, because it has a dormancy of 2-3 years. So and they will be coming again, and even though we are uprooting it like this. And in a wildlife area, we can't think of going for why can't you spray herbicides, weedicides, all this. That's not possible, because herbicides will also damage the wildlife. They also take that same thing. They will eat away and they will enter the ecosystem of the forest ecosystem also. That's not reducible. No weedicides, herbicides are used in the management purpose here. So, and only way out left is now to physically uproot the weeds and identify and physically uproot the weeds and to take them off from the system. That's where the weed management is there. So you must have seen the difference of how it is now, how after our intervention the area is getting into a beautiful ecosystem. When we started that area, it was completely like carpet of a lantern. Beautifully. I could have given you more elaborated because you can't even believe that this is the same area as is actually. You could even we had even taken the photos of animals usually in these areas. We have the pictures. I can give you an elaborate presentation when we sometime we meet in a Bendigood someday come down. That we can show also how these areas now been earlier not been used at all. Now been very well used by all the herbivores for the moment. And this is actually another thing is not just for herbivores, even for carnivores, these grasslands are required. Why? Somebody said hunting. Who's that? Yeah. Open areas are required for animals to stack and get into the reach the animal, because if the animal sitting inside the bush, the carnivores cannot cycle. Carnivores cannot before reaching the herbivores also get active and they run away. The process, it's a food web or food chain has to run. Herbivores has to eat the grass. The grass only can take the nutrients from the soil. Not I can't take, or the animal cannot take. The nutrients has to enter into the grass or the plant ecosystem to get into the animal body, or as is a food source of food getting transferred, energy getting converted. So this grassland is very important for even carnivores also. After converting such areas which have been infested with lantana and other unwanted weeds, so now that we have seen a lot of animal activity, and beautifully the numbers of tiger also has drastically gone up, just because herbivore population has gone up. Naturally, the prey base has increased. The prey, every time animal, any carnivore takes an attempt, it is not guaranteed that it's success. Okay, it is hardly having success rate of around 25-30%. And 70% of the time it fails. Tiger also, even the leopard also. They even such a good hunters, they can't hunt all the time. Today's morning, right in behind my home, leopard was trying to hunt a deer exactly in the morning before I come here. So the deer started, they could not catch. Right in front of me, I was witnessing, and the deer could chase away the leopard.
Lantana is a wild plant, weed. It also supports the microfauna, and also it helps for the prey predator relationship or association. Your prey can hide from the predator. It's a wild situation, no? Don't you think so? That is also even for her.
Exactly, sir. That's what actually I was talking about. That's how 20, 30 years back, it was thought of like that. So it was how we mismanaged our ecosystem. We thought lantana is a good cover. Just cover will not suffice for the life system to exist. There should be enough space, open spaces for hunting, as I was talking. Enough open spaces in the grassland, which provides actual grass. Lantana, how many animals eat lantana? Nobody will eat. Only deers eat and sambars eat only when the tender portion. When it's very, very tender. After that, even no animal touches it. The grass is available on the ground. Animal cannot reach because it is obstructing the movement of the animal. It can't reach. You have removed this. See, you can see the footing process here. Grass is down there. Grass is down there, but animal is not placed in the grass. You can't reach. The head is not able to reach to the ground. The lantana is having a thorns also. An animal get irritated, it cannot reach. It gets stuck in the ice also many times, and it is damaging. So that is how what actually it has happened in the earlier times. People thought it's a good cover. Creator will get a cover to for breeding, and it get a cover for hiding, and we let it come. So now that became a menace for the park management. It's a good question. Thank you for asking that. So the other big factor which affecting our grassland ecosystem is the fire. If you go to the village limits and all, people have that habit of firing, setting up fire every summer season. Everybody calls, keep calling me fire are setting in our forest area. Maybe it is not a forest, it is just adjoining areas which are open grassland systems will be set fire. People intentionally set fire. Fire is a good master as a bad servant. We need to completely, control the fire. If you don't control, you don't keep him as a servant, it will take you for a ride. We do for burn the forest for grasses. We do burn the forest floors. Whenever it's going on, forest fire, line creation is going on. If you don't burn the lines, the forest fire will catch up. So we need to, but in the villages, they use it very frequently. They just let it sit, lit the fire and get away from the place. Don't control the fire. Fire is a very big thing because fire not only, burns up the grasses and other steps. It kills the microfauna. It damages the soil quality. Soil, it becomes harder and it becomes impervious. All this, that this is how we spoiled the grassland ecosystems. I think that I already brought out the same thing. Succession has been affected because of fire. So just a few pictures, how we go about grassland developments. So we normally say we have been given a calendar for entire year activity. What one's supposed to do in the entire year. When to go for some species of the grass start flowering from seeding from November and December onwards, and maximum by January 15th our grass seeds, most of them will seed, and we need to collect. Otherwise, the grass seed is lost. We can't collect more. So initially, when we started our grassland management, we used to go for grass leaf planting also. I was telling the to management what we do is very, very important. If you pick a grass leaf and from one place and you're planting another place, what you are doing when you're picking a grass leaf from one place, you are disturbing the soil of that area. So you are allowing another weed to come in. So when we do management, the management should be very, very scientific. If not, we should not let it nature manage. We disturb too much of soil. Like in an agriculture area, we do a lot of flowing. And people may ask, why don't you go for a flowing in the forest area, just you can keep on going. Forest soils are totally different from the agricultural soils. Earlier, when I used to study forestry as a graduation and as a post-graduation, when I used to go to forest area, I used to sit through, there used to be 7 layers of humus. You must have studied the soil structure, somebody of you don't know how many of them. Humus just to 7 structure. Then actual soil structures to start. There will be just fallen leaf, slightly broken, then further, and it should be 7 layers of humus. Then the forest soil should actually start. When you burn with a fire and all this humus goes up, and humus is the one that actually has the moisture holding capacity. It binds the soil. It is a good soil binder, and also it supports the microfauna, which we are losing it because of the fires and other things and mismanagement also. When we even for going for a management again we need to observe the our own limits, that we don't disturb soil much when we take up this grassland recouping works. So collection is done, and it has to be a particular way of collection is there. Only seeds has to be collected, otherwise they'll pull every plant out. Only seed portion of that panicule has to be collected. and has to be dried, sun dried, and alternatively sun and shade drying is required. Actually, we need to go for 5 days sun drying, and 3 days in the shade, and then 4 days sun, 2 days. Like there is a pattern we are given that has to be followed to take the seeds. Now, because we collect the seed in the month of November, December, but we will be using when the first rain starts in the month of May or June, depending on the arrival of the monsoon. So till that time, you need to store the seeds. Otherwise, that will be eaten away. The moisture level, if the moisture goes, the moisture enters the seeds, that will be of no use because there will be fungus coming in or the other insects coming in and eating away. All this it has to be stored properly in a plastic this thing because we don't advise plastic for this thing, but we need to go for plastic here because it is the only thing that we can contain the moisture entering in the seeds. So now, actually, when we initially said we had a lot of seed planting, grass seed planting. Now we have been going for majorly seed sowing, direct seed sowing. But grass seeds are very small, very very small. Okay, so if you throw and then when the major rain comes in, they will be flown away. If you actually dribble it here or just sprinkle it here, but the first rain comes, the second rain comes, they will washed away. They get washed away before it actually germinates. So now what we have found out is to go for seed ball like this and make a seed ball because other techniques, sowing have been good where the rain doesn't come in, after one week or 10 days after sowing. It's good. Directly you can go for broadcasting of seeds. But this is taking care that seeds are not being flown from taken off from that area where we actually intend to take it. Otherwise, the grass will go and somewhere it will get regenerated. Where we intend to take, then there will not be any grass actually. So seed ball we have taken up. This is how we are doing the dribbling of the seed balls in the area of land. In a nutshell, so the grassland management, how we think is a graphically show, is a biomass management, invasive species management, grazing protection, and fire protection. These are the nutshell we can put it in a grassland management. So far we have told what is the grassland management. Now, what is the role that grassland play? Again, in the between talk, I've already told many of things like what I'm mentioning the role here. They give the fodder, they give the cover, they give dynamic then the ecosystem where a lot of life support system comes in. It gives an habitat for the herbivores, of course. So food web we talked about, and to support the food, this is one of the very important ecosystems that supports the food chain, because it's not only the major fauna, small fauna, as well as the microfauna also. This is a very good important ecosystem. So ecologically, also they are very very important grasslands. So we need to have every wild areas, woodland areas. We should have more of grassland. At least we are working out the percentages coming, how it should come out. But we think at least 25% of our area should be open and it's developed as a grassland, if not more than that. Threats, already I told all the threats because it's not just separately study here. The fire, the land filling, that too for the development of the land, then grazing pressure, fragmentation, species invasion. So climatic also there are a lot of pressures are there. So all these threats to the grassland ecosystem are there. So when we talked about protected area in particular, because India we have around 5% of our land is only protected area network. So we need to have more of protected area. At least 7.5% is to be covered. At least we have to have a ideal habitat. Even that is not sufficient for a major fauna like elephant, because elephant is a long-ranging animal. It requires a bigger landscape. Once upon a time Elephant used to roam from Belgaum to Mysore. There is a corridor which is not existing nowadays. Okay, and even up to Satyamangalam and even beyond. So even today, the elephants range from Satyamangalam beyond and beyond up to Mudumalai and even up to Nagarole and BRT. So this is there even today. But in between Mysore ecosystem to the Belgaum, all around the western Nati area, we have lost all this thing. But still, we have around 5% of protected area where we are supporting the population, the wild population. The numbers will be surprising if I say Karnataka has 6% of the geographical area of the country, and we are supporting 25% of the elephant population. So supporting a 25% elephant population of the country with only 6% of land mass means at least four times higher than actually the land mass supporting. And now even mind you again, the 6% is not entirely we don't find elephants over. Only in the 2% of the landmass are actually supposed. We don't find elephants in the Vijapur, Davangere, and all these places. Okay, all the plain lands are up in there. Hardly the western Ghat portion is mostly limited to this Mysore area, where you say Mysore, Chamarajanagar, then some parts of Mandya, Bangalore, as the Bhadra, all this Chikmagalur district. This is a major habitat for the, and we are supporting 25% of the country's elephant population. Day in, day out, we get complaints and all the news highlights that elephant has damaged this, that. How can you expect elephant not to damage when we are having such a high population of elephants in a very small area? Where elephant, that every day it consumes around 250 kilos of food and at least around 200 liters of water every day. And it has to support his body. So there is a pressure on the forest through various means, not just livestock is just one I put it here, but there's only for the purpose livestock pressure is there. Majorly, the forest is suffering the enforcement issues. It's one of the land available easily for everybody, and for all developmental works, is one of the land available easily. The protected area, because of this, thanks to again I said, Srimati Indira Gandhi, the laws have become tougher. Otherwise, we would not have seen this sort of a forest or wildlife what you are seeing. While I was a student and I was reading through one of the books of R.K. Luna. So that time it was, it was written in the year, I think 1960, 70, something like that. So I was reading in 95, 96. It was told that by 21st century, once the start of 2001, nothing will be left. I was scared, really scared. I have 4 years more to I have to see. The exploitation was so high. Exploitation, if you have been, writing, if you are sitting in a Mysore city, beautiful city of Mysore, Chamundi Hills is not so green as you are looking today. If you have seen any old movies, you can get the pictures of Chamundi Hills. As somebody who has been here for last 20, 30 years, they could watch on me. Thanks to the protection level offered by the department, thanks to the laws that are coming, otherwise, the R.K. Luna, what I said, it would have been a reality today. We would have lost most of our forests, most of our wildlife, most of our ecosystem, valuable ecosystems, like grassland ecosystem. We have already lost most of the grasslands, which are not covered under the Wildlife Protection Act, the Forest Act. The Gomada lands I'm talking about. The predatorship relation, all these things. So in a nutshell, I put it all the grassland management, what I've talked about, all these things in a background really put it. With this, I just want to say, is a very different. When we look into the forest, everything mind, picture goes into us. Our mind is big trees, no lead penetration. Thus, This is all not the forest. Forest is any land. Let's say I'm telling you, the more open the forest land and the grassland ecosystem, more the wildlife, more the diversity. Only one source of power, energy to the earth is the sun. More it reaches to the ground. Only the open ecosystems only can get the more of sunlight. Their diversity is more. More energy is to the ground, the diversity is more. In highland high forest areas, in the wet evergreen forest areas, most of the energy get restricted to the top level. So energy is concentrated at the top level itself. Now, no energy is very less energy that is reaching the ground. So we need change the perspective of ecosystem. We need to change the perspective of the way you look at the forest, way you look at the wildlife. With this, I thank one and all for being a patient hearing to me, and thank university, especially zoology wing, for giving the opportunity to address you all. Thank you very much.
Rakesh, I have one quick comment or a question. You see, you have basically addressed the grasslands, which are interspersed in deciduous forests. But there are other kind of ecosystems of grasslands, which are total grasslands, Melkote, parts of Tumkur, parts of Kolar, and the eastern Karnataka. So what has happened with especially the water management? See, most of the cervids are found in these areas, like interspersed grasslands. But most of the antelopes, like Chinkara or blackbuck, they are found in totally other kind of grasslands, which are total grassland ecosystems. Correct. And they have been spoiled so much that Chinkara and blackbuck and wolf and great Indian bustard has disappeared from most of the areas, and those areas are now taken over by cheetah, by pig, and by the leopards. So many areas where the wolf was there, it's taken over by leopards now. Correct. Most of the areas where blackbuck and Chinkara were there, now you find the cheetah and pigs. So what has happened is that, especially the water management, when the moisture level increases, so many other grass species come which are not palatable to the, and these animals are not hardy. I mean, competitive to say cheetah and pig, the blackbuck and all, they're hardy to live in the dry ecosystems, but they're not, they cannot compete with these species. So what has happened in most of the grasslands in Karnataka itself, for example, they're totally destroyed. They're gone.
Good question, Nivasa. Actually, that's what I was telling. Actually, management, when intervention we do, we need to be very, very selective. Because there was a Chief Conservator of Forest, Hassan Circle. The Bukapurna Wildlife Sanctuary comes under the Tumkur division, and is in fact it comes in my native. I'm come from Sira. So Bukapurna Wildlife Sanctuary has a blackbuck population. I was supposed to write the conservation plan. Okay, management plan I was supposed to write. I invited some expert, so-called expert. Suddenly, they started saying, you have to, this dryness is there, that is there. You need to do, check dams, water is all going, so much of water is going waste. I said, what for we are managing this conservation? This particular sanctuary is a blackbuck sanctuary. The blackbuck, for example, you said very nicely, it don't drink water. Mostly it nibbles. It takes the leaf sitting on the leaves. It's enough for the system. The body requirement of water requirement of the blackbuck is very, very minimal. It survives in a desert ecosystem. When we increase the water level, when we increase the moistureness of the area, suddenly some other species come over and take over. What you rightly said it. So when we do management interventions, we need to be very, very careful which species we are targeting, which kind of management we are supposed to do. That's what I was telling also. When the lantana we mismanaged, we missed. I said no, in the forest we missed grasses for the woods, and similarly we missing blackbucks for deers. When you manage, when you change your approach to the water availability. So that's very, very important. You need to look into, if you're looking for a management of very finch, where the water requirement is very high, If you are looking for a management of sambar or a gar where water requirement is very high, you need to go for all these things. When the black pearl population is there, which is a very desert type of fauna, we don't should not, there is no requirement of water bodies in the area. There is absolutely not required because those are the animals which survive very limited water and they don't require water. Other animals will come over and take over the ecosystem. Thank you. Any other question, please? Yeah, please.
Nowadays, forest fire are not often more and about the forest fire. Come to what are the
No problem.
what are the immediate and fastest measures to take for that time? Because this RP was going to be on the habitat is almost gone. So those are the primary levels. So how will you take the immediate and fastest measures?
Thank you. And may I know your name? Pooja. Thank you, Pooja, for your question. I said forest fires, when we are talking in India, less than 1% is a natural fire. 99% of the fires are man-made. Right? Out of 99%, another 90%, out of 99, 90% is planned and intentional. Hardly 10% happens accidentally. 10% accidentally. When it is done with an intention by a modified interest, it's very difficult for any setup to tackle thing. If it is, we can fight some of the accidental things. 10% of fire I was talking about, or 1% of natural fire we were talking about, we can fight. We have the ability, we have the support system to fight. But when it happens, when it's done intentionally and with a planned way, for example, if you have heard of Bandipur forest fires in the year 2017 and 2019, so a lot of area, thousands of acres were burnt. Why? We had our manpower in the place. We had our all our fire lanes were done. We had done our excess workout. Everything was there in place. We were monitoring also rigorously. In spite of that, fire could take off. That's because it was all planned. People just wanted to irritate the actions of the department. If somebody has violated a law, the department has to take over and has to arrest the people, person, punish him, put him under the bars, put him behind the bars, and show him the legal process to start. But that is one reason. There are multiple reasons like that which I can enlist you. One person don't like this. He's a congressman. He's a BJP man. I don't want to get political here. Just a term I just got it here. He didn't get a place in one of the this thing. These guys get irritated immediately. He lets the fire. There are 100 reasons like that, all intentional, and they do it in a way our resources cannot tackle it. When 2017 happened, when our resources were when major fire took off from one place, all our men were congregated in that area for tackle that fire. At that point of time, somebody who was very planned people who were watching the actions of the department also closely. Simultaneous fire was lit from another 10-15 places. So when such things happen, the department or any organization will feel handicapped to address the situation. Of course, now we have a very advanced technology for monitoring our fires. We do, till date, for a small area like 10 to 1 lakh hectare of Bandipur has 2,828 kilometers of fire lanes we have done to prevent the spread. If any fire happens, it should not spread to the adjacent portion of the forest. Those are the preventive measures, what we call. One is preventive measures, then monitoring, then control. There are three stages of managing the forest fires. Preventive way, we have done our fire lines, and monitoring, regularly monitor. We have our watchers placed at all key positions. We are monitoring our very sensitive fire. We have a fire plan already. We know which are the areas very sensitive for the forest fire to happen. And we have kept very vigilant staff in that areas. Along the boundaries, regular patrolling we are doing, drone patrolling we are doing. We are doing camera traps to see any intruders in the forest area. There are publicity. We have done all the publicity with the people through radio, through television, through street plays, through pamphlets, through digital talks. So many ways. We have not one way of creating awareness. Other than that, there is a satellite system of monitoring over and above what we do on the grounds. We have a direct monitoring through the satellite. Any area beyond 5 acre, if it's burnt, it's a real time. In the real time, we get an alert on our mobiles. It's a real time alert system has been there in place. So it is being mapped all our, including me, the topmost in the park management to the lowest management person who has been there first guard has been mapped in that alert system. He gets immediate alert on the mobile if he's in the signal area. So if you that's why they have mapped all the people. If somebody will be in the signal area, immediately they will be able to connect it. So and we'll directly, when that is a control measure, when we come to the control, then directly go to the area address it immediately. But when it is planned and hardly all this preparation works, sometimes goes out of it. Thank you for the question. Thank you. One more question? Yeah, please. I think you have exceeded time. Okay. Some other speaker may be there. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks. I'm happy that people have a lot of interesting questions. I can address it sometime later also. Thank you very much. Please come out to 1D4 and we'll.
They can write to him also.
You can write an email and you can come out to him. I'll ask Dr. Malini to get the students to come 1D4 and we'll have an elaborate session on please. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful talk. Please feel free to interact with sir in the upcoming tea break. Our speaker for next session is Dr. Prakash Padkarnaya. I request Dr. Sarjan to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, Vanetta. I would like to introduce Dr. Prakash Padkarnaya, Professor of Psychology at Christ University, Bangalore, India. He was trained in psycholinguistic and cognition during his PhD at Utkal University, India, and the MRC Cognition and Brain Sciences, Unite, London, United Kingdom. His PhD is focusing on reading development in Oriya. Since then, he has been engaged in research related to reading, dyslexia, language, and cognition among pre-literate, young literate, adult literate, and literate population, employing multiple approach methods that comprise behavioral, neural, and genetic techniques. Dr. Prakash Padkarnaya is a recipient of many prestigious fellowships, including a Japanese government fellowship at Tsukuba Daigaku, a Fulbright postdoctoral fellowship at Texas A&M University, USA, a Fulbright senior scholar fellowship at Hoskins Laboratories, Yale University, USA, Erasmus Mundus visiting professor fellowship at University of Potsdam, Germany, and also he is traveled widely on across various academic assignments. Dr. Prakash Padkarnaya is an elected fellow of Association of Psychological Sciences, USA, and the National Academy of Psychology, India. Also, he is the chief editor of the Journal of Cultural Cognitive Sciences, associate editor of Psychological Studies Springer, a regular reviewer of many journals, and also he is also an editorial board of several journals. He is also an elected member of Executive Council of the International Union of Psychological Science. Dr. Prakash Padukanaya served as the president of National Academy of Psychology India, and also he is as the convener and secretary general of National Academy of Psychology India for 6 years. He has served as the member of the task force of technical evaluation of grant proposals for central government agencies such as Department of Science and Technology, University Grant Commission, Council and Scientific Industrial Research, National Council of Educational Research and Training, and similar agencies of national importance. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite you, sir, for this session.
Good afternoon to all of you. And in fact, it's the first time I'm giving a talk in the university campus after 3 years after my superannuation from psychology department here. Thanks, and Professor Manu, for the opportunity to see you all. And also, like say, when Professor Marini, called me and invited me for the talk, and since it is zoology department, I did not really think. I was thinking, let's say, what would be relevant, for the audience here, for the students. So I gave out some. I think let's say I had some 3, 4, let's say topics, and then she selected, let's say, dyslexia is good, and so I said okay, and it's all the more, it's nice because I had actually, let's say, we had 2 collaborative projects with major DST projects with Professor L.B. Ramachandra, and thanks to all, let's say, Avinash, Shamla, Marita, Anand, and we had actually, let's say, good output also, I think in terms of number of papers, I thought, it's good. So if I also, let's say, go somewhere, like something wrong, then, there is a few genetic or like zoology genetic questions, maybe you can even address or like direct it Professor Ramchandra, because like I'm not, let's say from genetics or zoology, I'm from psychology. But in the light of, like the present day emphasis or present day scenario of, promoting or, of importance or significance of interdisciplinary approaches or like using different methods, different approaches. I think it's very appropriate. I thought it is good to have these kinds of interface between disciplines, where like if you really study any phenomenon from one single point of view or single focus, when narrow kind of let's say approach or technique, you may get something, let's say some definitely some important information, but nevertheless we want to know the whole thing about any phenomenon what we are interested in at that in that level, that context. I think let's say dyslexia is let's say I thought it's one of the very good topics which really is open for inquiry from different disciplines. That's why let's say I wrote let's say developmental dyslexia, joining the dots. Let's say when I wrote, I had psychology or let's say cognition, and then let's say neuropsychology of brain, and then let's say biology or genetics. How let's say these could be combined or integrated to get an order. Yeah, so,
Okay,
sure.
I'll take leave there.
Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks. I was actually sitting at the back for your lecture for some time. Then I came, like, yeah, that was very nice. Thank you. Yeah.
Please submit. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yes. So, yes. Sorry. That's about the topic. How we arrive at the topic, and then let's say I will try to finish by 45 minutes or so. Just time given 45 minutes. So, and the relevance, and also the relevance of the relevance of, let's say the topic, or also you can read from what is in the slide. This is, let's say, all of, okay, all of you know what is dyslexia. I'm sure it's very popular. At least, let's say, Tare Zameen for, if it made it, it's very popular. During which time, like that was the time we also had, let's say, roughly our project was like after that, and there got to be, there were so much of an inquiry, there's so much of interest among the participants because, let's say, after seeing Tare Zameen for, every parents and all the parents, many parents thought, their children are, probably having dyslexia, so they were, like, very concerned and also. So, which is actually, I mean, anyway, that's, it's a very popular movie, and not that, like it's very scientific movie. I mean, some maybe there are some maybe very some take home points there, but not all. For example, not all the dyslexic children are, like as bright as, like their what it was shown there. Yeah, they really suffer a lot. They go through, like, both psychological and a lot of, psychological trauma and so on. Okay, so this is, like you can see here, this is the, like, Indian situation. Like, I think the couple of things, and let's say a bit old, the information, but in the last line, like, is the very latest information what we have. That is about, let's say 16% of, like, children in grade 1 are still, let's say, they cannot read. Cannot even identify akshara or letters, and then, they 40% of, let's say, 40% of, let's say, cannot even recognize letters, and only 16% actually can, do some work. That's, let's say, latest, let's say, figure I could get. That's, let's say, 2019, or the latest report. So, but nevertheless, it doesn't mean that, and it's all, many of those could be having DD, but maybe about, 5 to 12%, let's say, put it roughly, I'm putting that 18%, but, I think it's around, maybe around, let's say, 5 to 12%. But, the range is actually the incidence rate of, dyslexia is about, 5 to 18% across the studies. But, like, yeah. But, like, let me also say that if somebody, some type, I mean, I'll talk about that later. Okay, this is the outline. I thought, like, I will cover. I don't know, like, how much I'll be able to, let's say, do justice to all. But, let's say, developmental dyslexia, first I will, cover meaning, understanding dyslexia, and then, let's say, some cognitive framework, and then, let's say, behavioral manifestations. What is, let's say, what is the nature of, let's say, dyslexia, and then, let's say, neuronal basis, that is, let's say, cortical activation associated with the reading, or, let's say, dyslexia behavior, and then, let's say, also neuronal pathways included or involved in reading and dyslexia. And then, of course, the third one is, let's say, neurogenetics, which is, the last part of the joining the dots of behavior in brain and gene. And let's say, probably I'll just summarize, a couple of things there, mostly both from our project as well as, let's say, whatever I know. The implications. Okay. This is the outline. And let's say, let me start, the whole thing. It's a very simple very popular old test actually in psychology and in cognitive psychology. That's called, let's say Stroop test. Stroop test. You can see, let's say what you see there. Okay, yeah, there are some words, right? The task is actually very simple. We ask, like the participants to name the color of the ink, used to write the word or used to type the word, or what is the like font color, or if it is written, then like what is the ink color. Okay, so can you see? Can you do that? So what is the ink color used to write these words? For example, red. Red is used, like what is the color of the ink? Red. And then green. Okay, yeah, blue, and so on, right? So this is the like way, and also we do actually start with, of course, with the color strips first, to name the colors. But otherwise, it's okay. This is the task. And then, is it easy? Do you find it easy? Yeah. Okay. Now let's say see the next one, second one. Do the same. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What do you think? What do you feel? Which one is easy? First one is easy. Second one is why is not easy? Yeah, but let's say that the task is very clear, very simple color, simple task of let's say, okay, just name the color of the ink, or let's say color used, let's say or font color, whatever it is. And let's say, so it's such an easy task, but there is an interference, right? You find it difficult because like the words written there, like interfere with the task. And that means like what is written there in like a simple, common letters, common words like red, green, sorry, red, green, blue, yellow, or pink. These are the words. Like say, that means like say reading, like is such an automatic, like say involuntary kind of, like say task, right? Because let's say you cannot control, like you cannot really, like it's so difficult to control, or what you call executively control, like say, or withhold the word while naming the color, right? So like it becomes like, it appears so natural. In other words, let's say reading, let's say appears so natural, so spontaneous, or so easy, right? But it's not true, like say, this is maybe true, and like after a certain stage or age, like when you masters the reading. But let's say for a normally growing children or normally growing people. But not actually, let's say, for those people who have problems. Some people, those are the people whom we are talking about. So yes. So let's say what is let's say difference, let's say between before talking about, let's say, dyslexia, developmental dyslexia, like say meaning, or just the background or the framework, like you got to understand what is the normal process of reading. Because let's say if the dyslexia is a problem in reading, and then if you know what is the normal process of reading, then you can actually understand the impairment of the process. The impairment of the normal process is actually what is dyslexia, right? So what is let's say, and also let me of course, let's say reading, we generally we talk about when we talk about language abilities or language skills in children. We talk about let's say read, speaking, understand, comprehend, speaking, understanding. That's a spoken language, what I meant, and then reading and writing. And these four, we combine together. But actually, let's say it is not. So let's say you cannot combine them just as an expressive and receptive kind of a mode of kind of communication, because the speech like is more spontaneous, more natural, which has been evolved let's say over the years, and it's like say more whereas in the writing or reading like is very recent evolutionary. It's like say very recent phenomenon. It's only about let's say 5,000 years ago, like writing came up. It's a technology which was, let's say, invented by human beings. In fact, like the language makes, if language makes us Homo sapiens, and probably, but the whole or the one which differentiates between from other animals. But like the reading or writing made us, I think, civilized. All the history, all whatever we know, the knowledge, everything probably what most of it, what we know now is because it's possible because they were recorded in a permanent form. In other words, language which is just spoken in the air and goes, and disappears unless it is recorded and then again listen to that. But like so when it's written, it's like actually like something permanently encoded. Language itself is let's say a form of symbol, right? I mean, because like I have something to tell you today or tell you now, and that is like my intention, my like say something like something that I have yeah, some meaning, something I want to convey, and then that I'm trying to tell you that using the language, using the speech. Okay, that means speech becomes let's say a symbol, and then like actually like you go further, like say for one step. That means writing. That speech is actually let's say now let's say meaning is encoded in what I speak, and then let's say if I write down that the speech is encoded in what is what is written. So it is a secondary level of let's say encoding or symbol system. So and also let's say I told you let's say speech is spontaneous, but spontaneous, but it will say no. Okay, there's also I'm just I got to hurry up a bit. So there is no brain specialization, except for reading. In fact, there is no, because it is not evolved, it's not there, let's say there is specifically, let's say, evolved structure, let's say, like in neurodevelopmental process, for reading. It's only, like actually, it's a neuronal recycling. There are already some centers, some neuronal pathways developed or meant for some other task, which is maybe equally important, like the speech, for example, speech and language. So those language or those speech, like areas, structures or centers are used, like say to construct, to build a pathway for neuronal pathway for reading. So it is being, I mean, it's a neuronal recycling, like to use, let's say one of they have the person term which he used, and then let's say, and also because of that, reading and writing, like is like probably is the best example of our brain plasticity. Okay, like say how there is nothing, it is not really meant. I mean, we use like some of the those structures or let's say centers meant for something else, but for like for reading. So it is, let's say, best example from brain plasticity as well as let's say that behavioral plasticity. So to come there later. Then let's say bring, let's say, but okay, now like say dotting, joining the dots question, let's say the problem, let's say, the behavior, what you see, the way I speak, the way I stand, the way I move my hands, or whatever, some insignificant and maybe let's say some funny, gestures I make, I don't know, but like all of them, let's say, what is there any, let's say, gene for that, or is there any genetic basis for that? It's very, you obviously, like we are, like a biological entity, so there got to be some biological basis for like all that, for everything, right? So let's say, but it's not easy to map, like say what like these kinds of behaviors with let's say like genes. You cannot go to the genetic. You cannot say that there is a. There could, I'm not arguing, but there could be some people who may say, I know, let's say, so Meva Singh was saying that, let's say, in Bob Rivers, let's say, thing like I believe, let's say, when something somewhere it came and poured water, and then something he said, like that was something, like but everything, like is determined, by genes kind of thing. But let's say that apart, what I'm saying is, it's not easy to map the, let's say, genes or let's say genes or chromosomes, and then let's say behavior, like which is very, very broad kind of. So what one, like the way, I mean, the path is actually, is to see some intermediary phenotypes. These phenotypes are like very difficult, to be associated. But what are the intermediary phenotypes? Probably the brain mechanisms, neuronal, and like what happens in the brain when you do something. So that then, let's say it may be easier to connect, let's say brain mechanism, or let's say brain processes, or the whatever, let's say brain structure, brain morphology changes, modifications, and so on, with let's say the genetics. That's what let's say the last one. I mean, that's what the um, importance of the topic. Okay, then this is the let's say framework. Like again, I'm not let's say going to let's say deal with this much, but this is what let's say reading is basically going to be very popular. Let's say model. Like you have three components here. Three components here. Like when you read, like you have to read. You don't read faces. You don't read. That's a different thing. Like our hand reading. This is reading. Let's say something what is written. That's let's say print, or let's say written material. That's orthography. And then I told you that like written or the script or whatever it is nothing but like actually transformed let's say or the symbolic representation of the speech or spoken language. So let's say this is let's say that's written material, and then you convert actually that back into let's say, what is already spoken language. Like phonology means sound. You change the print to the sound, because let's say how do you learn? So you have come to let's say MSc level, or you have come to like you are studying new things and let's say every day in the class in different let's say courses. But like it is always like the learning is always linked to what you already know, what is already let's say that's how it's a learning takes association. Let's say you go on linking, associating what you know, and then ultimate so that you acquire like a knowledge system. So similarly here, like the best way to let's say up to 4 years or 5 years. Of course, it may be earlier now. Let's say maybe at the age of 3 only it is started. Children are taught to read or write, but generally at the age of like it is. They at the age of 5 or 6, like they are instructed, and there will be instructions. I'm sorry, they were taught. They're taught to read, and then let's say best way to since it is a language, what is inscribed there, you can always let's say convert that back into speech, the sound, and then get the meaning. Access the meaning. That is actually semantics. Meaning is semantics. So this is let's say we generally every child, every baby or child in the world goes through of let's say while learning to read, irrespective of whether somebody let's say reads Japanese, or whether somebody learns some child like is acquiring learning in Chinese or Kannada or French or English and so on. It is the first kind of thing which cannot be really, as far as I believe, cannot be cannot be in this, or it cannot. You have to go through this, let's say state. Then after that, let's say obviously you can let's say see something and then directly get the access. So direct kind of an access to the meaning. Without let's say converting that into speech. But nevertheless, let's say when that is as you become more and more proficient. But nevertheless, if you come across some new words, unfamiliar words, non-words, or something, then you got to follow on this way, because you don't know how to read it, right? So this is let's say these are the let's say basic structure framework for understanding both in a way let's say reading as well as let's say dyslexia. And when if there is a problem anywhere, let's say this is let's say network thing, but I will not describe the whole thing here. But then if there is any disruption, any problems in the connections between this and this, or this and this, or this between these two, then different kinds of let's say dyslexia may manifest, or like reading disability may manifest. Okay, so then Okay, now let's say I'll say what is dyslexia. Dyslexia is, let's say, development. I mean, there are two types of dyslexia. In fact, one is called acquired dyslexia, and other one is developmental. Acquired is the one, like you might have come across, some people who meet with an accident or stroke, or due to some brain uh, uh, injury. Like they may lose, ability to speak, ability to read, and so on. But they may, and let's say slowly, some of them, may recover. Some people, in fact, will not recover, or may take years, depending upon let's say that extent of injury and so on. But that's called actually acquired dyslexia, because those people have already acquired how to read, but later on there is a disability. But the other one, what we are talking is actually developmental dyslexia. That's more interesting theoretically, as for many things. Theoretically, because to understand whatever like I spoke in the beginning, our scientific inquiry. Developmental dyslexia represents the most common learning disability among school age children and across languages. Let's see, I'll just read because it takes less time. TD is a lifelong impairment. Each one is important in a way. Lifelong impairment characterized by impaired reading acquisition in spite of adequate neurological and sensorial conditions, educational opportunities, and normal intelligence. You see that in spite of all the other circumstances like normal intelligence or above normal intelligence, educational opportunity, and no apparent, let's say, deficiency, let's say, apparent problem with the neurological sensorial conditions, but even then, let's say, there's a problem in reading acquisition, reading development. That is actually developmental dyslexia. And like let me say one more thing. Generally, like when we define or when we study, there are three ways of let's say looking at that. One is what we call discrepancy, let's say, approach, which is now like actually nobody uses, like I would say, but discrepancy was basically based on only on intelligence. Like intelligence should be low in that, and like which is not used anyway. Like you can make, but the third one is, and the second one is actually the this is the a second falls in the second category, where we talk about exclusionary criteria. Exclusionary criteria. What is exclusionary criteria? Because when do you use exclusionary criteria? We use exclusionary criteria to describe a phenomenon when you don't know really what is that. You don't know what is it. Then you say that is not A, that's not B, that's not C, that's not D. But if there is A, B, C, D is not there, still like you find this one, this problem, then this is okay, developmental dyslexia. So that's actually exclusionary dyslexia, which is exclusionary criteria, but that is not actually should be the right way of defining any phenomenon, because let's say it doesn't tell us anything what is DD. It is like saying what is intelligence is intelligence, what intelligence is what is measured by an intelligence test. No, then we don't answer what is intelligence. Similarly, here also we don't really get, except that like it is a problem and reading acquisition. Like the real question, real definition should come from the explanatory point of view. What is that? Is it let's say it's like when it is says let's say neurogenetic basis, everything which has got a neurogenetic basis. What are those neurogenetic bases? Why is it like occurring? That like is the explanatory thing. But like since we don't know the let's say the whole thing, we don't have that kind of information. So okay. This is just let's say very fast. What is then let's say what it is not when you say developmental dyslexia is not a visual problem, is not a lack of intelligence, is not of let's say not due to lack of effort, and not like a developmental lack, not let's say uncommon in population, and then let's say not responsive to standard reading instructions, because these are the let's say major things like what you see in your if you are if you take up any study in on dyslexia, These are the things what you hear from the parents. They say, let's say it's a either buddhi illa, there's no intelligence, or let's say memory illa, no problem. I mean, no memory, and then let's say, or they're lazy. Let's say lazy. Let's say, I mean, no effort. If they will say, some people you think, oh, it's only developmental lag. Development, I like to do it after some years or some time, it will be overcome. These are all actually not true. In fact, let's say in a study we conducted, let's say it's about, and more than, let's say, I don't exactly, I don't remember. I think the overall average was something like 60% of the primary school teachers don't know what is, let's say, developmental dyslexia. Like in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. Okay. But then let's say, what is it then? Okay, when you say what is it, what it is not, then you got to say what it is. And let's say small thing. So dyslexia, let's say this is non-functional, and let's say from the words, and basically let's say it is a problem with the words, and let's say as I say, it is neurogenic, in origin, and there is a environment may alter course later. Like it's a lifelong condition, but even then, that is possible to remediate to a large extent, sometimes depending upon the case. And then let's say core deficit. In fact, core deficit in dyslexia is phonological component. It's a linguistic base. In the sense, phonological basis means, let's say one's ability to reflect on the linguistic. I mean, let's say phonology means sound. So sound properties of this language. For example, if I ask you that, let's say, what is that? That is door. Okay, like I think, let's say, door. Okay, then let's say, can you really go on, parsing that, parsing that, into smaller units, or can you actually delete, take out, the first sound and say what is left out, and you should be able to say word. From door, if you take first sound, then word. But like it is, and this is what, let's see, if the child, normal child of 8-year-old doesn't do it, like in UK, for example, then let's say it's probably like that child will be branded as implicit dyslexic. But like it is not. I mean, that is true because of phonological thing. But like I'm asking you, how many of you, if I don't give that this, had not I given this example, how many of them have given the proper response by asking Kannadadalli, Bagilu, idra first shabdana, first whatever, varnana. Akshara andre like it becomes, let's say, first sound. Let's say, and I take how many of you would have told me that Agil? Well, like, the most majority, I would say Gilu, right? So this is like, I mean, like, it depends on the language, lots of things. Like it is not so crucial to maybe in some of the languages, but even then, let's say all over the universal feature that those children have, let's say the main component problem is actually dealing with the sounds. Okay. This is okay. This is, let's say, just okay. There are also many times in that it is comorbidity with it in terms of like ADHD or SLI, that is a specific language impairment. In fact, 50% of specific language impairment turn out to be dyslexic, or ADHD also is very common. Like say, that is attention deficit hyperactivity kind of thing. Then sensory motor difficulty or behavioral problems. Sensory mobility, they are very clumsy generally. They cannot really think about the directions properly. They will even verbal instructions, and they might get it let's say get it confused to follow the instructions and so on. So these are the behavioral things. And more, of course, it's very difficult to remediate, but it's possible. Then there are types of dyslexia. I'm just showing one slide here, but I'm not going into the details. There are, let's say, types. Could be basically, it depends on, let's say, what kind of approach you take. But let's say from the practical point of view, let's say theoretical framework, if you take, there could be, let's say, you can think of the stages, how many stages are there in learning to read, and that many stages, each stage, let's say, could represent, let's say, one kind of dyslexia. And there are, let's say, this is one of the recent classification, which I don't, like, in fact, very much agree with this kind of thing, but it has got its own application in certain societies. And each, I'm now also not going to explain each one of these. You know that, let's say attention means, let's say the problem is attention dyslexia. Maybe I can just, let's say, I quickly, I'll say what is surface dyslexia is the person, let's say, who cannot read by sight, maybe. Like just look and use the orthography of the written thing to the meaning directly. Let's say one cannot, let's say, do it. Problems mainly in that kind of words, then like it is called surface dyslexia. So let's say phonological dyslexia. I mean, okay, the surface dyslexia will typically like have problems in reading exceptional words. Like in English, like there are there's no for example, transparency or each, like, spelling may be same, but pronunciation may be different. That kind of, let's say, irregularity, like that's what is a problem here mainly. And phonological dyslexia means, let's say, they try, they fail to convert, let's say, letter into sound. Okay. And now let's say I'll just go on to the neuronal basis again. I think yeah. I will take maybe 10, 15 minutes more. Reading again, I will not go to the details. Neuronal basis, like I told you already, told you. This is, let's say, recycling, and these are the parts of the cerebrum, which are, let's say, some I just put it, let's say, into, or there's a few, let's say, who are just going to brush up the areas, some of the areas related to language and reading. So, but let's say, okay, let me, the behavioral studies I did not tell you. We studied behaviorally, let's say, the dyslexia with a lot of, experimental work. We by presenting, maybe it's simple. It may be simple reactions and experiments, and presenting a stimulus and, let's say, asking, like them to do some work, decide about whether it's a word or non-word, or, let's say, just recognition and so on. Or it could be, let's say, recording the eye movements. Let's say eye movements tell us a lot, because eye movements allow us in like online processing of what goes on in the mind when somebody does something. So let's say with the eye tracker also, that we get the information how to read, and then that's a behavioral thing. But all of them actually, all these studies prove that, support that, there are two kinds of, let's say, reading. One, directly reading, and that is actually, I will not use the terminology, actual terminology, but directly means look and say kind of thing. Another one is actually letter by letter, converting to sound kind of. So these two kinds of, let's say, processing, or let's say, is there, it's very much established. Same thing, is established in neuronal studies also. That's what, let's say, there's a correspondence, complete agreement with the behavioral studies as well as, let's say, neurological studies. You can see here. See, this is the visual world forming area, and from here, it's an angular gyrus, and then when it comes to sorry, IFE area. This is also one pathway which is actually indirect, or indirect pathway, that is converting the sound, letter into sound, and then reading. This is, let's say, dorsal pathway. And other one is actually, let's say, converting, let's say, accessing meaning, let's say, directly, or visual reading, which is, let's say, the most from, let's say, visual word formation from that to medial temporal gyrus and inferior gyrus and temporal gyrus. Goes, let's say. So one is, let's say, dorsal, and the other one is ventral. So what is happens actually? This is, let's say, as the let's say, as the children become more proficient, what happens is this ventral root, let's say ventral pathway becomes more and more, let's say stronger, strengthened, let's say because of the practice, and this is let's say becomes let's say not so prominent later of thing. But in reading disability or dyslexic children, this is what happens. Let's say, I mean, there is a lot of let's say difference between let's say in the structure of the in the certain brain regions, especially the temporal let's say I mean, temporoparietal region and this and also in the medial region here. There are a lot of let's say difference between the dyslexic and non-dyslexics, and in fact these what you see the firing or let's say cortical activation, you don't see much let's say much cortical activation in the brain of brain regions of let's say reading dyslexic children, and also let's say again I should have okay, I will come to that. Let's say this one gets it later a bit, but let me say that there are different techniques that are used in neurological. In studying neurological basis of dyslexia, and here all the studies also not only the activation but also let's say gray matter density or white matter and connectivity and so on, the techniques which I will mention later. And again, let's say this I will let's say for the time because of the time let's skip that. Okay, and there are different theories, let's say neurological thing again. This also, let's say, I'll just mention the name. One is actually phonological theory, which emphasizes the, let's say, problem in the phonological processing, which is associated with actually left pericidium anomalies. This. Then, like other one is actually magnocellular theory, bringing emphasizing, let's say, problem with the magnocellular cells in the visual system, that is lateral genital body, where which is sensitive for movements and so on. In Tare Zameen Par, like you might have seen, like when he looks at a boy, looks at the in a book, like the letters, let's say just start dancing, like so, like say probably, like say taken from Magnus. In fact, the it's just the advisor to what is his name? Amir Khan, for the movie, for this kind of thing was actually was a friend of mine from Bombay. In fact, not very close to me, but in good friend. Anyway, Magnus cellular disruption. Then like other one is actually a point set, that emphasizes cerebellar impairment, which is again, let's say, related to all other problems associated with the dyslexia. Then the last part is like actually genetics, what's around here now. Okay, how to go about. This is again, let's say, mainly again I will not discuss or describe all of you are let's say know better than me about let's say all the terms here. But this is basically let's say from the projects, let's say one of the papers and let's say what we had in our studies, which we showed and which we had done. Then let's say genetic, we use like okay, there are different kinds of let's say analysis. We know that same analysis methods can be used as pedigree analysis or let's say twin studies and let's say estimate heritability ratio, and you can then you can the same genetic methods are used let's say for the thing, and you can see that for example heritability ratio let's say varies in, let's say, in fact, this is with one paper. In fact, I could not put another one, which shows even 0.78 value. So each one of these, let's say, word recognition or phonological decoding, that is converting the word into the sound, or orthographic coding, that is, let's say, how do you, I mean, orthographic, say, basically, let's say, for example, if there are two words, let's say, sounding very similar, but, let's say, understanding that, comes there, or phonological awareness that, sounds, can be the way one can manipulate the sounds or replay the sounds. All these are, let's say, have high, let's say, heredity ratio. And then, of course, let's say, we also had actually linkage studies, that, let's say, again, what is, we, in our study project, we had actually SSR simple sequence repeats we had, and then we also had snips, kind of thing, and also we had actually used, let's say, in fact, Avinash was pretty good in using the, all gene mania and all those, let's say, to really bring out, the pathways of genes. Let's say, if you would put some query genes and then see the pathways, let's say, how are they really, how those genes are interacting with, the other genes. Like all that, let's say, the technique we use, and of course, let's say, again, this is, we can, oh yeah, I think this is important, just to say that the literature, of course, I think I'll just, this is some illustration, but we don't need that. In CNVs, copy number variation, we had additions, we have deletions, and so on, cases. And this is what, let's say, the map. I'm just example. We put, let's say, query genes on the top, and then see, and then kind of we come. We can infer a lot about, their importance or the functions they control. Okay, this is, let's say, again, a summary of the here. At least, let's say, 9 developmental dyslexia risk loci are there, which are called DIX1 to DIX9, and then, let's say, and also you can see here the chromosomes, let's say, 1, 2, let's say 1 chromosome 2, and then 3, 6, and then, let's say, 6 groups of location is written everywhere, 11, and then 15, 18, and then 1 even on the X chromosomes, related to X chromosomes. And several, but these are the 9 genes which are, let's say, almost universal, more or less, accepted by everyone. But it is not, it's not limited to that. There are many other genes, let's say, have been reported in the thing. Okay, these are the locations, let's say, sorry. These are the genes, DIXC1, DCC2, Kia 0319, and so on, ROBO1, and Kia, the variations, and FMR1. So apart from these, let's say, which are agreed upon, there are many other, let's say, genes also which were otherwise involved in, like, in other, some other disorders, but they also seem to be really involved in, let's say, in dyslexia, contributing to dyslexia. Some of them, let's say, are here, let's say, FOXP2, or, let's say, CNTM2, FOXP2, that is involved in what is that? Some other language, but in very popular disorder like dyslexia, which is now actually the hot thing. Everybody works on that. Who is withdrawn, let's say, from the society, doesn't speak much, no eye contact, and then, let's say, no development of, let's say, theory of mind, no what empathy. What is that? All symptoms. Huh? Huh? Autism, sorry. Autism spectrum, ASD, autism spectrum. Yeah. Which again, that's my fault. Yeah, I knew I was actually partly involved in that, very less, but so, and then until I had again, it's a good project on autism. Yeah. Then these DD candidates affecting, let's say, okay, how do they affect? These are the DD candidates, but how do they affect? Again, I'm rushing through. How do they affect, let's say, the expression or the developmental dyslexia is through, through neuronal migration, or let's say, neurite outgrowth, or cortical morphogenesis, or ciliary structure and function, and so on. These are the main things in, let's say, what is affected by these candidate genes. Let's say, we know that, let's say, brain has got several areas, a region, and a parts, layers, and let's say, in neurogenesis, the neurons, let's say, multiply, and then they really migrate. I mean, like in a developmental process, let's say, neurons, let's say, migrate to different regions. If it is not, let's say, migrate, if they don't go and move and settle in that designated place, then there will be a problem. What is that called? Sorry, I'm getting the term. It's in the tip of the tongue, but because of the time, I think I'm trying to be in a hurry, so I'm not getting the term. Yes, neuronal migration is a major, let's say, thing, the mechanism by which it is involved, because let's say if the neurons don't settle in the appropriate places or don't migrate, then everything, the development thing will be affected. Or let's say neurite outgrowth, again neurite outgrowth also in a similar thing, let's say how small neuron at the initial stages of neuron individual development of neurons, let's say, how do they really move, or axon or whatever that comes out, outgrowth, let's say, then cortical morphogenesis, and then of course that is, let's say, brain ultimately, whether everything is formed properly, and then ciliary structure. Ciliary structure is even more important, that, let's say, they are like antenna in every cells, and which would get the signals, and if they don't function properly, then it's also major thing. So these are actually, let's say, how they affect, let's say, link between the intermediate phenotype and the genotype. And then, say, of course, let's say, okay, some examples I've given here. Let's say ROBO1, for example, is known to be an axon guidance receptor regulating the connections between brain and cells. And then, let's say, similarly, DIXI1 has been linked to neuronal migration and cilia structure and functions. Studies have shown that, let's say, utero RNA, even the RNA is blocked, let's say, from making the proteins, then, if it is deficits, we can see in spatial working memory performance, as well as learning and memory performance. Similarly, let's say here, 0319 is involved in neuronal migrations, neural functions. Again, let's say RNA is, let's say, causes, let's say, in spatial learning deficits, and general, genes lead to DD condition by producing developmental disturbances in neuronal positioning, as well as axonal. And there are many, actually, one can go on listing some example more for every gene, but I mentioned. So, I will, let's say, this is one of the last things is actually we use the link. I told you one is obviously MRI. That is the one of the techniques what is used to study the brain of the developmental disorders. Then let's say also we have, let's say, other techniques, let's say VBM, voxel based morphology, which is used to quantify gray matter as well as white matter and in different regions. And then let's say DTI, or diffusion tensor imaging, which actually proves water diffusivity in the micron scale defects, and in basically any alteration in, let's say, white matter structure. White matter is the axon mainly, and then that's what is the connection we talked about. So it actually indirectly gives information about the architecture of the fiber pathways. Finally, of course, let's say functional MRI, that is MRI, not like it gives, it's not used for structure and I mean understanding the structure of the brain, but in let's say let's say what is the cortical, what are the cortical activations while the individual is doing something. So while performing some activity. So that is, let's say use actually sensory tasks and also, rest and so on. Then, of course, let's say BBM analysis implicates some, I mean, this is again just an example. We get, let's say, some of these areas are implicated, by BBM analysis. Similarly, we detail also, some other areas, and there are fMRI that I skipped that, there was one slide about, let's say, based on that fMRI, let's say, what are the areas. I mean, this is just again an example of this is let's say from our study. I could not remove the table 3 because it's directly, it was from the paper, it was about the paper title and PDF. So I could not remove the thing, and so I just put it there. But this is let's say from a project in, let's say, Professor, and we had here in the zoology department. You see that, let's say, using all that, these are the implications, like all these genes, what are the, let's say, functions they are engaged in order to connect with you. So this is how we got it. And yeah, this is the thing. We also, this is, let's say, okay. We also had, there are some of the nice things, let's say, which were not recorded, like some of the studies showed, let's, for example, TIA 319, 391, or Dixie 1, for example, they did not actually were found in our sample, like in Shamlas, which was in, again, is a negative finding, but it was published in a very good journal. Let's say, because let's say there's a variation among the populations and families. Okay, and then also in another paper, let's say we also had generally it is all the papers in the dendrites, at least when we were doing the project, everything was emphasizing on the neuronal migration aspect, not much of, let's say, developmental aspect data, which was, let's say, we had actually a couple of people, I think 1 or 2 papers wherein we had spinal dendrite spines. That is like how, like, that is when you say that, okay, this is one sentence. So when I say that developmental dyslexia is neurogenic, and you may get that in like one, generally people would get the idea that, like, okay, if it is genetically determined, then like nothing can be done. No, there is a lot of things like this. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is fixed. So let's say, in fact, you can remediate a lot of things, can happen because there's a, as I said, there's an interface. There's a, let's say, you can, behavior, and then let's say the brain structure or brain functions, and then also maybe genetic predisposition, or let's say, so there's a, like, say, long range in everything. It's not, like, so fixed, and you can actually remediate if you do the intervention. People would improve. There will be new connectivity. There could be, let's say, new connectivity. That's what, let's say, we saw in one of the papers, let's say, genes, they're found to be involved in actually developing dendritic spines. That is, let's say, if there are 2 neurons, they are not connected, but it should be connected. So new dendrite, let's say, the dendrite can send, like, needle kind of spine, kind of thing, let's say. It may that. And also we found out, like, neurotransmission and cell addition kind of thing. That was, I think, it's good papers. And despite the successful characterization of DD, this is the last one. DD susceptibility genes, there has been no consensus on the pathways of underlying the development of DD. So I told you, like, it's all possible, but still there's a lot of problems actually, because there's so many, all genes like also have, for every gene probably, there are, except few, and like there are a lot of, let's say, negative findings also. So it is not, let's say, completely acceptable, or what everybody agrees with that, all the studies agree with that, but it's mainly because, let's say, I think a lot of, I would say, a lot of reasons. One is obviously, let's say, we are dealing with, let's say, a character, a trait, which is, let's say, polygenic, which is not controlled by one, like single gene. So, like when it's like when polygenic complex genes, obviously could have, let's say, problem. These kinds of variations in study results we may get. And then, of course, another thing is, let's say, pathways from genes to phenotypes is definitely not straightforward. There are a lot of like in the days of like epigenetics, and there are a lot of like new things, research findings. It's you know and environmental effect, or let's say gene environment interaction, everything masks let's say the results. So you don't know, like, it depends on maybe let's say because these studies would have maybe 50 individuals, 60 individuals. Like a large sample, large scale studies with many propagation centers, many languages probably would be helpful. And it is unlikely that a single model again connects these kinds of when so many genes are involved. And then this is again just an example of the types I gave you. But let's say those things in let's say that same model that 19th, we just let's say out of curiosity study observed in 55 children with dyslexia, and how many of them are found and things. In fact, it depends. Let's say there are. I will just this is just show an example. There are why we cannot agree. Why all the studies are uniform or like agree with something, because there are a lot of variabilities. One is let's say the primarily language and the language and what I want to and writing systems. Let's say there are some universalities, and there are also let's say other let's say specific context specific let's say factors which influence the results. That's why it's we don't see like all the results in the same saying the same thing. And in that context, only one I think here just there's something let's say I wanted to. It's important. I thought it was important to mention. There's so much of let's say variability. Let's say variability. Like some may be let's say task. It may be even task variability. If it is let's say fMRI, for example, you see language variability. That's one thing. Let's say because some are language specific, and it's the same task is done in a particular language, it may be different in one second of picture in here. So task specificity. So there are so many things, let's say to separate out and then, try to understand. So like that's very, very complicated. So like I just gave that, what is found in English may not be, for example, universal too. And of course, let's say there may be universality, but as I said, the expression of the genes, the genetic expression of the phenotypic expression may depend on the context. And the behavior brain gene interaction approach will lead probably to better understanding the phenomenon, and that there is a long way to integrate all this. I think the last one, if you like it, I'm not going to read. This is just like on learning disability. Learning disability involves it's a major part of the learning disability is dyslexia. You just read because it has gone actually in the 2 slides. Starts with the college dean, and let's say he blames, let's say the school principals, high school student, because from that's where they get college school and to the student, and students come to the college from high school. College principal blames the high school teacher, and then a high school teacher blames the elementary school, primary school. Okay, and it end there, and then primary principal says what to do. He says poor kindergarten. Okay, we call that preparation. What is it? Kindergarten. What did they do? And then kindergarten says, what can I do? It can, let's say, such lack of training with the never see. What sort of person can the mother be? Like a family. It didn't end there. The last line. The mother says, "You stupid child, but then you are not a Jew. You are not a Jew. Your father's family are all the same." So that's it. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was a truly amazing talk. There is a short tea break now. If you have any questions, you can talk to sir in the tea break. We'll get back to the next session in 15 minutes. Okay, we'll get back in 10 minutes.
Actually, I was late to start. So
I request you all, please do not leave after the last talk. You will be provided with a sheet. Please do write down your names and that, and you will be provided with the certificates.
Thank you, Neha. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, Dr. Shailaja M. Dharmesh, who is going to give a lecture on current trends in diet and cancer. She is a retired senior principal scientist, Department of Biochemistry and Nutrition, CSIR CFTRI. She served as chairperson and co-chairperson in Research Advisory Committee in Mysore Medical College, Jesus Medical College, editorial board member of several national and international journals, board of studies member, board of examiner. She has also served as professor of Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, coordinator of integrated MSc PhD program in nutrition biology. Madam has guided more than 12 students of PhD and 60 MD, MS, M.Pharma students, MSc and BE students. Madam holds 7 advanced degrees in the field of biochemistry. She has published 5 book chapter, 103 research papers and reports, 4 journal articles and other reports. She has received several awards like Eminent Scientist Award in 2019, Runa Awards International Best Researcher in Health and Wellness in 2019, Fellow of National Academy of Biological Sciences in 2018, a Lifetime Achievement Award from Venus International in 2016. 2 of her papers have been selected in Nature Asia in 2017. Tomato as a weapon to fight cancer and turmeric against gastric ulcer. One of her papers has been rated as top 1 article for the year 2015 in the journal Chemico-Biochemical Interactions. Award for Best Scientific Contribution from CSIR CFTRI in 2016, Best Technology Transfer Award in 2011, and selected as a member of National Academy of Sciences, and also ma'am has received several awards and certificates. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Dr. Shailaja M. Dharmesh to this wonderful session. We welcome you, ma'am.
Good evening to everybody. First of all, I thank Dr. Malini Madam for providing me this opportunity to share some of my knowledge, research knowledge with you all. And I also I would like to express my happiness to see Dr. Professor Ramachandra here and many other colleagues, which is really nice. And I'm sure that you are already loaded with lot of information, and this is the last session, but doesn't matter. So we are dealing with some of the things which we are taking every day. So the topic which I selected for this was current trends in diet and cancer. So in the slide, is this okay? So in this slide, is it okay? Okay. So you can see in the center, the diet, the combinational components of the diet, and crab. This is so combinational dietary component, and then you see a crab here. So what is the connection for cancer and the crab? So cancer is represented with crab because it has got such a fine grip. So it will not leave the affected person till he dies. So that is why it is here. And I have also put here coronavirus, which is now a pandemic, cause for COVID-19. And we will see like why it is here. So as and when we move on, the first question when I say diet and cancer, everybody will get a question. What is the connection between the diet and cancer? Is it promoting the cancer or is it protecting? So actually both are true, but the proportions are different. So the processed red meat is actually promoting cancer. It has been shown. So one has to use in a limited fashion. About 3 to 4% is responsible for that. And there are also components which are enriched with many anti-cancer compounds, not necessarily only antioxidants, and they are actually protecting against cancer, protecting like delaying the process. So then the question is there a very special diet we are talking about? Is it the same diet what we eat every day? So it is the same diet we eat every day, and we eat mainly for energy, growth and maintenance of day-to-day life. So we are talking about the same thing. Then the question is, can the same food play a role against cancer? So when I say it is the same food, if it is yes, then why people are still getting the disease? Why people are still getting susceptibility to cancer? So let us see, like put it in a statistical scenario, like how much the diet is contributing to cancer. So there are several factors. Of course, just now Professor Ramchandra was mentioning genes and environment, but he had left out diet, and diet is also in his terminology, it is in the environmental factor. So genes, diet and environment play a significant role for the status of a person, status of a person, and also health and wellness. So as you can see here, genes are contributing to only 5 to 10%, and the environmental factors are causing 90 to 95%. In the environmental factor, diet alone is contributing towards cancer 30 to 35%. So try to understand that they are not causing 30 to 35% incidence is not due to diet, but it is due to lack of something in the diet, which is actually leading to 35% of cancer. So which is statistically significant. So we are missing out certain things in the diet, which is responsible for making a person pushing towards getting susceptibility to cancer. Therefore, it is very important to eliminate some components, and it is only 2 to 3% red meat. However, we need to protect or retain some of the components which are necessary for maintenance of the health or prevention, the prevention of the process of cancer. Okay, now let us try to understand, since you are students, I just want to highlight what is cancer. Everybody knows that it is a life-threatening disease, and I would put it like it is in the cancer itself, in the disease itself, it can be defined. So it is very challenging to understand. It is a multiple disease. I would call it as a multiple disease because there are no defined symptoms, multiple symptoms depending on like what is causing and which part of the body is affected. So it is very difficult to define or arrive at a particular test so that you can say that yes, you have a cancer or you don't have a cancer, or you are this drug is working for you or not working for you. So that is why it is quite challenging. So as I say, it is very complex and aberrant. The cells are aberrant. They are not normal cells, and therefore it is very difficult to dictate that particular cell, mainly also because they decide to stay immortal in the body. So they have acquired the character of immortality, therefore it is very difficult to deal with them. And again, I'm putting it as till now, like there is no cure and it is not avoidable also. Like you can't avoid because many factors are responsible for it, and it is quite challenging. And another important factor is it evades the immune system. It actually gives misinstruction to immune system, or it will not obey to the immunological impulses, and therefore it is becoming more problematic. And another reason for life threatening is also because it is recurring. It will not stop, it will recur. So it has the ability to develop further. So ultimately with all this, it like you end up a person, cancer patient, having a defective immunity despite the treatment and best of the food, and ultimately it comes to a stage of difficult to treat situation. And difficult to treat situation is also because of the great manipulation done by tumors. So the tumors are just not there arising from some defect, but they also learn to manipulate all the physiological system, particularly the immunological system, the defense system. Wherever there is a threat, they will manipulate. So that is why it is becoming quite challenging, and they keep on doing it. So there is no end. Like if you give one drug, it will try to again manipulate some other component which will become resistance to that particular drug. So that is why it is challenging. So as you can see here, this is like a healthy person will become now like a cancer patient. So we see alterations at many steps, at all steps in the body, like signaling level, the receptor level, the transduction cascade, and majority of the components, essential needs of the body are all the targets of this cancer. Metabolic enzymes, gene regulator, cytoskeletal proteins, they're all altered. Obviously, you cannot see a normal functioning, and therefore it is very difficult because it is multi-targeted. It is very difficult to target with a single drug. So ultimately, what is therefore needed, like you see changes at the genetic level, epigenetic level, and usually there are cell surface carbohydrates which actually recognize other cells and respond accordingly. That is cell-cell communication process, and that is again glycans are modified so that the communication process is actually cut off. Like it is now disconnected from each other. Therefore, they don't get any regulatory signals, and proteins are altered and metabolites are altered and lipids are also altered, and ultimately you see a screwed up system in the affected area, and slowly it also has the ability to move from one part of the organ body to another part, and therefore the abnormality carries from one organ to another, and ultimately there will be a stage where person cannot withstand this screwing up anymore, and you can see the death of the affected patient. Now what do we do? So with explaining all these complications and then challenges, can we still think that diet can help, really help to get remedy for such a complicated disease? That's a question probably occurring to everybody's mind. But before we address this question, we need to first think of, we need to understand or try to start with a concept. Do we have any concept to believe this, or do we have to give it up? Or are there any evidences for us to move in this direction, or do we have to completely, omit this particular strategy? But the very first title says that there must be something. We will see what it is. So when you look at the origin of life, of course, many must have already spoken about this. Like the life arises, what is it? It is basically composed from a set of genes and gene functionality. And of course, not just gene, phenotypic functionality. But once we get the genes, like during birth, this has to be maintained properly. This has to be thoroughly maintained in an appropriate way. So that is possible only with appropriate diet. So otherwise, that is why we call it as growth and maintenance. Diet is a key factor. So we have to maintain this. Otherwise, if we screw up something in the diet, if you have a faulty gene, even if you get the right diet, you still end up having the problem, the disease. Not necessarily only cancer, may also be any other disease. And it is true for all diseases. But supposing if genes are all perfect, there's no problem with the genes. But if it is not maintained properly during physiological steps, various developmental stages and physiological steps, and that is a key tool for that is diet. If it is not maintained, obviously we are reducing the tone of that particular gene or genes and making the gene defective, malfunctional. It is not functioning as effectively as it should be. So ultimately, it is giving susceptibility to various factors, and that is the one which is responsible for causing cancer. Also, there is no exception for other diseases. So what we are today is mainly because of a perfect interaction between the genes and the diet, either perfect or imperfect interaction. If we are sick, then again, the interaction, like that means that either we have not maintained properly, nor we carry a significant. So the genes that we carry matters a lot, and how we maintain them through the diet is equally important. So a lot of genomic modifications, epigenomic modification, imbalanced diet, exposure to environmental pathogens, the factors affecting our immunity, and all those things results in molecular alterations, and that results in dysregulated function, and ultimately that is what is actually leading to cancer. So when you look at this one, I mean, there are a lot of chances to get into molecular alterations, and that is why, like, the incidence of cancer is now increasing. Okay, so now the previous speaker also spoke about this. So we talk about the genes and the genotype. So there are many filters to see the genotype to get into the functional phenotype. So like epigenetics is one, the nutrition, the culture, and the lifestyle. So the culture and the lifestyle, we have no grip on it. So depending on the geographical locations and depending on the availability of the food or depending on the culture of that particular area, it goes on. So like there is very limited choice to modify this. However, epigenetics is something which is actually can be, like, if there is a faulty gene, it is very difficult to rectify the gene. But what we are talking is something, epigenetic change, which is like a switch to on or off the gene. In other words, that can be controlled. So epigenetic changes can be modified, and particularly the main source which actually controls the epigenetics is the nutrition, the nutritional component. And therefore they are interlinked, and one can easily use this nutrition tool or a dietary tool to overcome the complicated problem also what I spoke about right now about the cancer. So now we get a little confidence that okay, nutrition can play a role, and therefore we are not just slaves of our genes. We can be still modified, or we can modify them and get into what we want. So that is in our grip. Now, okay, now when we have this, the nutrition grip, again, like we put this into the perspective of the gene and the diet interaction, and we also have one more evidence from the concept, the fetal origin of disease hypothesis. So that also clearly explains like how nutrition play a key role in giving or in offering protection to the existing person. And of course, the other one is the environmental influence on the genomic changes. And we look into the fetal origin of disease hypothesis, and this is where the factors, I'm just taking coronavirus here, and they are also affecting a lot of things which can make a person susceptible for cancer. I'll give you that explanation with later. Right, now we perfectly agree that, okay, so we don't have to lose out if there is a faulty gene. We don't have to still lose out if we are not maintaining our body properly with the diet. Still we have time, and that is actually manifested as an epigenetic change, and therefore we can now, at least after realizing, like we can change a little bit. And so what we need to do here for maintenance of health and wellness, we have to have a multi approach, and of course single approach, directional approach is not enough. We need to go for genomics, epigenomics, glycomics, lipidomics, metabolomics, and immune nutrition, and also nutrigenomics. Okay, so we have to have a combination of genomics plus nutrigenomics that would help us in understanding like what is wrong in the disease condition and what can be the diet to rectify that particular problem. So understanding epigenetic changes, like that is the first clue came from this one, the fetal origin of disease hypothesis, where the early nutrition experiences what mother experiences during pregnancy when the child is being developed, and that is what dictates the future wellness or fitness of that particular child in terms of the risky phenotype, sorry, in terms of the risky phenotype or whether the person is getting susceptible to various diseases. So in other words, that is malnutrition or suboptimal nutrition. If you are not taking the right diet at that time, obviously we get a risk phenotype, and that can lead to a cause for obesity, hypertension, insulin resistance, leading to diabetes. And in the adult, you will see the expression of those disease conditions, including cardiovascular disease. So this has been laid down by Professor David Barker, and then we started to understand what is the link between these lifestyle diseases and the diet and the gene. So here the set program in imprint will give a regulated genetics and regulated epigenetics. We have regulatory genes and we also have well regulated epigenetics or switch. So when this is actually dysregulated, when we have a malnutrition, and I will tell you why. So this results in imbalances in the metabolic reactions and the physiological perturbance, and that is the one which is leading to susceptibility to various diseases. So I'll just give you an example here, like in cancer. So like epigenetic changes, again, I told you it is just like a switch. Methylation and acetylation cap on the gene. So I am just giving you one example here. So you have a set of genes here, and this is the normal set. And these are the genes which are not capped, which are not actually having the methyl group. And there are some genes here which are having the methylation pattern. But if you look at the cancer cell here, the genes which are not having this cap here, methylation cap, is present here, and wherever it should be, it is not. It's not there. So this results in entry into cell cycle. It goes into active proliferation, avoidance of apoptosis, defects in the DNA repair, and then loss of cell adhesion, and loss of imprinting, overgrowth, inappropriate cell type in the given location, and genome fragility. And together, you see an incidence as cancer. So there is also another nature's weapon that can control or that can take over or control the cancer disease, and that is immunological body defense. So we have immunological body defense, and this can be affected by environmental factors, and therefore now it becomes maybe at some times helpless to protect. So we have a diet control on genes through epigenetics, and we have immunological body defense together can actually maintain the body towards health and fitness. But if there is a problem here, actually it can lead to problem. It can result in disease condition. So why I put also emphasis on immunological system? Because this is like a magic doctor. I don't have to tell, or nobody has to tell anything to the immunological system. It knows what to do, where to go, and what to eliminate. Although there are one single aberrant cell is there in the reservoir pool of many millions of normal cells, it will not eliminate the normal cells. So it knows, it is very methodical, and it is actually programmed. So that is why if you just trigger the immune system, automatically it will take the action to eliminate the abnormal cells in wherever you can corner in the body. And therefore, there is a fight And of course, once you have a cancer, that means that there is already a fight. I will show you a slide for that. And something must have happened to the immunological system and cancer wins. So when immunological system will win, can we make use of that also as a tool, and how we can connect this through the diet. So it is the most powerful tool to eliminate abnormal cells and to counteract the effect of infectious agents. So now, after learning all this, so we know that it is quite challenging how to approach to find a challenging diet or dietary components that reduces the risk of cancer or to cure or to target, go for multi-targeting. So we have realized now how to start. So we have to start with the hypothesis which results in cancer, known hypothesis which results in cancer. So there are several hypotheses. One says, of course, the genes are the building blocks. If there is a mistake in the gene, we get a wrong component, and there could be a wrong epigenetic modification also, and resulting in abnormal protein component at abnormal levels, and that may be like in myeloma, and may be responsible for cancer. And of course, many things are true with that. And another hypothesis is, of course, viral gene hypothesis. So the virus enters into the body, and the main goal of the virus is to multiply, multiply, multiply. So it will not make the cell die. It doesn't want the cell to die because it wants to. It wants the host cell. Therefore, it will integrate in such a place where the repression, the cell growth repression, is actually blocked. So what you see is now the continuous proliferation, and that is nothing but the first stage which results in cancer. So we get uncontrolled proliferation, and there are many examples like HIV, Kaposi sarcoma, Epstein-Barr virus, and everywhere like people will not die out of HIV infection or Epstein-Barr infection, but they end up with they die out of cancer. So that is the main cause is the virus itself. That is because of this reason. And you also have chemical carcinogenicity, which could be drug or which could be anything, pesticide which we eat along with vegetables probably. And they result in multi-hit mutations and ultimately leading to cancer. So I will not be getting into the details again. And defective immunity and altered growth factor hypothesis, and all these things you will come to know that is also dictated by the virus. So virus play a significant role here in terms of causing multiple steps of cancer. Okay, now, so we understood that there are several changes, several hypotheses. So we have to go accordingly, like how to avoid the, anti, chemical drugs which are getting into mutations, or how to overcome this defective immunity, etc., etc. So for that, again, a strategy has been laid where so people thought that we should look in the diet. If you want to have an anti-cancer compound, it is just not anti-proliferative component. You have to look for antioxidants that will actually take care of the bullets like reactive oxygens, which are actually spoiling or pushing the normal cell towards cancer, and anticlastogen, which has the ability to repair the mistaken DNA, and also anti-mutagens. So all these things have been worked out, quite well in the field, and even National Institute of Health took up a major program. But the outcome of this, I will just tell you in the nutshell that it's felt that it is just not enough. So these dietary components are not working. So then, of course, we figured out how why it is missing out and what else could be the reason which is still not helping from the diet. So the one thing is anti-metastatic agents were not looked for because the severity of the disease lies in the metastasis, where the cells move from one primary organ to a secondary organ and then to tertiary. So people had not understood the mechanism, and therefore there was no blocker for it. And that is what we actually addressed in our lab. And immune boosting although we know that defect like immune boosting, like people thought that those who are not having enough immune power, they will get susceptible to cancer. But they never thought that immune power can also be down in cancer patient because of the manipulation done by the cancer cell itself. So that means that irrespective of the cause of the immune deficiency, like one has to understand, like we have to keep boosting the immune system in order to envisage the required results and the genomic modifiers. Again, like how do we now take a right on the genomic modification? So now we'll put all this in the perspective of what is already known as anti-cancer drugs. So at what stage we are in the cancer therapy? So in the therapy, we know that we have anti-cancer drugs, and of course, like it will actually slow down the process of division, and therefore that is what is actually given as chemotherapy, and they are actually alkylating drugs, and some are cytotoxic drug, which it is given in a dose stimulant manner, and the cytoprotective drugs and also some hormones. They are all used in chemotherapy. And of course, radiation, and radiation has a limitation because you can't use for all types of cancer. And antioxidant, which we spoke, like it is definitely good, but it has to be, now it has got it has to be dosed effect. It has got a very stoichiometric action, and therefore one should know at each step at the time of antioxidant therapy, like how much of reactive oxygens or oxidants are there in the body, which is very, very difficult to estimate and very, very difficult to predict, because it depends on what we eat and it depends on how much stress we have, and there is no like device which will measure all that, and it varies from individual to individual, from today afternoon and day after tomorrow, and the habits what they carry. So it is very difficult. That is why antioxidant therapy alone was turned down, although it is a very powerful preventive tool. And these chemotoxic drugs, there is no discrimination between normal cells and cancer cells. So at the time of risk, like we know that we are eliminating fast growing cells, that is how it is dosed. But at the same time, what happens, the immune cells know that there is a destruence in the body, and therefore they start proliferating in order to help the body. So those are also now destroyed by chemotherapy. That means that we are actually spoiling the immunological cells, also the body defense cells also. And the surgery, of course, it has got limitations. We can't do the surgery for all types of diffuse cancer. And immunotherapy is actually, we have to learn from each patient what is the problem. Then we have to develop an agent, and then it has to be infused. So that's a difficult task. And gene therapy, and of course, it is very, very difficult because even today we have not figured out, although human genome has been worked out, like what gene is responsible for what type of cancer. Some loci have been identified, but still the gene, it is just not the gene. As I said, there are other factors which influence the gene activity. So it is a very difficult task for as a curative strategy. So we know that at the current stage, despite all the therapies which are now being given to cancer patients and which are available, still we are lacking many things. So that is where we need to figure out. As I said, the major challenge here is the tumor spread and metastasis. If it is localized benign tumor, you can actually target them, but it is just not that. Benign tumor will easily get into the stage of metastasis. How it gets into metastasis, that is what we need to understand in order to block it. So, like, see, you can see, like, till here, it is a benign cells. Benign in the sense, like, there are cells which are now localized. But what happens, these cells are now dependent. You can see these are all normal cells in a given tissue, and these are all abnormal cells. And these are also uniform and decorative, and they are also very well behaved because they have a theme. But here, although they are proliferated, they are not very like systematic. They are quite abnormal. You see so many differences in the nucleus, the shape, and the functionality, etc., etc. So obviously they cannot function like a cell, normal cell. So they cannot take their own food. They are dependent on the neighboring cells. They start taking the food from the neighboring cells. So once there will be a stage, and there is the cell, the nutrition is now fed from the into the body, and it is all taken by the tumor itself. And there will be a stage where normal cells are not getting the nutrition. So already you can see the symptom of impairment of that particular tissue, but then normal cells are ready to die. They know that they are not getting, they are ready to die. They will not harm anybody. However, the cancer cells, when once they know that they are not getting nutrition, they don't want to stay there. They will find some other way to get into a place where they can get food. So that is where they develop a strategy with all proteases and collagenases to remove the basement membrane, which is a very tough wall in all the organs, and they break it and they come to the circulation first. Once they come to the circulation, now they are free to move to any organ, and they will be reaching another organ which is much healthier, very healthy, and they stay there. So they stay there, that is secondary metastasis, till they get again complete food. Once that starts deteriorating, they will get into the tertiary stage, and that is where actually you will see the collapse of the person. So in this case, the main question was like how it is breaking, how it is breaking the basement membrane. So now it is understood that there is some molecule which is secreted by the cancer cell itself, which is nothing but a lectin, and that is what we have figured out in our lab. And this molecule is expressed only in the cells which are urged to move into the secondary site. So they produce this molecule, and this molecule helps in contacting the normal cell, and this interacts with the extracellular matrix ECM on the neighboring cell, and this interaction results in the entry of the defective nucleus into the neighboring cell. So now you see this normal cell is already now transformed, and they are now again getting into the active proliferative state, and you can see multiples of cells in the secondary site, and you can see the tumor spread and metastasis. So the concept we had, of course, we proposed being in CFTRI, Central Food Technological Research Institute, where food plays a key role. So can we find something in the diet which actually can block this galactin molecule so that we will not see the spread? So that is what we attempted actually. So we started with a humble approach. Like we started looking for, first of all, try to understand what is the binding site which this galactin molecule is liking in the normal cell. So it turned out that it is a simple sugar molecule. So if it is binding, then what happens once the binding occurs, there is an interaction and you will see the exchange of nucleus. So we try to now look for similar molecule from the diet, and it so happened that when we mapped majority of the dietary components, some components like pectins do carry similar components. So we thought maybe we can just isolate them and then use it as a tool. Let us see whether it blocks. So this had a greater affinity to bind to the cancer cell now, to the lectin molecule. So once it has a greater affinity, you will see the binding of this cancer cell with this dietary molecule, leaving out the normal cell as such. That means that the cancer cell is now adhered to, like it is now expressing this lectin in order to push itself into another cell and survive. But when we give this, of course it is fooled. It thinks that it is again a body cell. It binds. Once it binds, it is not a cell anymore, and it will not support anything, and therefore the unbound tumor cell will collapse, will die. So that means that it is not spreading into the body. This was the concept. And we tried to look at this strategy, and of course my first student Harish Naik started with this. So we had to screen series of molecules for this and a lot of background work. I just want to highlight that there was one like from citrus source. It was identified in US, and it had the ability to, it had the similar ability as that of the sugar binding. So when we tested some of our molecule, actually it was 25-fold, actually 12-fold better than the already existing component which is existing in the literature. So we thought that this might work now definitely better, and this had a limitation because it was a larger concentration was required, and that is where the work had stopped in US. So then we used this and we tried this in a metastatic model. We had to develop our own metastasis model, and it is not good enough to try in the model like the stagnated model. So what we did, we took a mouse metastatic cells and injected in the tail vein. So it moves in the circulation similar to the metastatic, the cells which are metastasizing in the cancer patient, and it will harbor in the lung. It will harbor in the lung because it actually it is suffocating because it is coming from outside, and in the lung it is comfortable and it harbors there, and it establishes its colony. Because it is melanoma, you will see the colonies, black colonies here. So now this is healthy one, and these are now injected with the metastatic cells, and these are the ones which are now treated with the metastatic cells, but prior treating with the components which we have identified as in from the dietary source, and these are the ones which were now given the same metastatic cells after giving the best of the known anti-cancer drug. So you can see very clearly here, this is just a representative slide. You can see here, the colonies establishment are not so much prevented in the known anti-cancer drug. However, it could prevent, it was prevented by the component what we have identified. In other words, it is simply not because it is not anti-cancerous, because in the model what we have tested is something which is targeting this the lectin molecule, which is helping the spread, because we wanted to look for a spread blocker. So that is why these anti-cancer drugs were good to inhibit the proliferation, fine, but not, it could not prevent the spread. However, the component what we have identified could actually inhibit the spread. So this was proved with multiple other models, and this is a skin cancer model, and we developed a spontaneous model. This is a healthy one, and this is induced with the known UV DNVA like ray, and you can see this is with the component which is with the known anti-proliferative component, that is diferoxamine, and these are the ones with the component from the diet. So we could see, and of course I have not given the quantitative analysis here, we had done everything, and this was better, and you could see here still some of the tumors. So we were convinced that it is also working in the spontaneous model, and also we tried in the stomach cancer model, and like we could see that component from tomatoes, like this is now induced stomach cancer, and you can see this is with doxorubicin, which is now given for stomach cancer patient. So the tumor burden was not lessened so much. You can still see, however, with the component from the from tomato, like you could see, effective blockade. So we were now convinced that it is certainly blockade. And we also, our results support the epidemiologic study which came from human cancer patients from none other than Harvard Medical School. So what they had done, they tried with 79,000 men. The men who consumed 2 to 3 servings of cooked tomatoes per week had a reduced risk for developing prostate cancer by 40 to 50%. That means that 50% lessening ability, a tumor spreading, reducing the spreading ability of the prostate cancer could be reduced by the component from the tomato. And what component is probably something what we have identified. Now, with the encouraging results and with the supportive knowledge also from human studies, the question is now, can the dietary component help reducing inflammation and boost the immune system, because that is again another key factor which is actually pushing the cancer cell towards the worst. So that we call it as something which actually boosts the immune system. Is there immune nutrients which can boost the immune system? Now, the complications, again, we know that we are dealing with a magic doctor here. The complications also because cancer cell fights with the immune system, the only master who can guard the body. So now we know now that there is a defect in the immune system, not because there is any anomaly in the immunological system. It is basically because of the manipulation by the cancer cell. So we need to now figure out. So that is why we could explain, although the best of the best, the person having the best of the best immune system also becomes susceptible to the cancer. Of course, the initial trigger is different. So it's a powerful tool. So that is why it is worth addressing the question. Now, we know that the immune system is good enough to eliminate in the initial stage. There are three phases. This could be explained by the hypothesis with immunoediting. So what is immunoediting? So we have three phases. In the first phase, you can see all immunological cells, NK cells, and then the macrophages. All cells have attacked the cancer cell, and they are successful in eliminating the cancer cell from the body. Successfully. So this is the first phase. And then automatically there will be one or two survivors here, and they will develop a strategy somehow to push back or revert the effect of these immune cells. And there will be a stage where it reaches an equilibrium state where you have equal fighting, like equal number of cells of immune cells and also cancer cells. They are struggling, they are dying, but still cancer cells are being now turned out by immune cells. But again, from this also the cancer cell learns faster, because you remember the cancer cells are proliferating faster than the immune cells, normal cells. So obviously the opportunity given to it is being used for its own benefit. So they produce whatever they want in a very quick manner. So they produce their own growth factor and strengthen themselves first. And ultimately they are very successful in killing also the normal cells, the normal immune cells. So they are now successful. This is the escape stage where the tumor now escapes completely from the immunological cells by fighting it. So once we understand this, now we know that the immunological system is quite strong before and it is being manipulated. So we have to nurture them as and when it is getting spoiled. So this happens during the progression of the disease. So I have given only a representative slide here, and one can study this in like immunological activity through a molecular tool that is inflammatory cytokines. So you can see here, like, so these are all the healthy tissues tried for various inflammatory cytokines, and these are the ones which are represented. CD11B is a marker for macrophages. So it is not there in the healthy cell. It is not required. Macrophages need not enter into a healthy cell because there is no necessity to fight and then eliminate them. But they are there tremendously in the cancer tissue. That means that they are there fighting. They have entered, they are doing their job. But look at this, these are metastasis induced, so it is there in the cancer. And these are the ones now which are treated with our component. And we also took another irrelevant component similar to our structure, but not having this galectin-3 binding ability, in order to make sure that there is no cross reactivity. So you can see that the component is not helpful if it is just a pectin. It will be helpful if it has got a blocking ability, and of course this will increase. It will reduce further with the increased concentration of the component. So other cytokines, like which has to be there to protect the body, is now zero here. It is not there because cells are killed. Now you can see with the treatment it is getting regenerated. So, like we are now convinced that again the cytokines which are necessary for the regeneration of the immune cells are getting triggered by the component like what we have tested as a galectin-3 blocker. So we could also
Madam, your CD8 cells were proliferated. How they proliferated? Because of your component what you are given?
No. It is already like they are proliferating just by the signal. But our component is actually boosting it in terms of producing the functional component of those immune cells. Because some of them are already killed. So it is increasing the tone of that particular cell. That we have shown with the cell culture studies. Your question was very relevant. It is just not proliferating, it is increasing the tone of that particular cell.
Generally, all cells will die there. Only few cells are taking further.
Exactly.
What made them to taking further? Or they are not killed? Or only specific cells are?
Immune cells are all killed by cancer cells. Only cancer cells are surviving. Because they have all kinds of manipulation done. So whatever, now normal cells, only, normal immune cells which are killed only, we are increasing its tone by the component like this. Immune nutrients. And this is now labeled as immune nutrient. So, so this explains and suffice to prove the immune editing process what we have studied. So what happened is generally, like in any given situation, macrophages enter into the area which is affected with the tumor cells to kill the tumor cells and to suppress the tumor. So they are doing it perfectly and they suppress the tumor. But due to immunoediting hypothesis, what we have studied, they will actually transform to a M2 form where that is due to hypoxic factor because cells are growing over and over again. So like they are cancer cells only, but macrophages doesn't feel that they are cancer cells. They feel that they have to protect them also. Therefore, they try to produce different cytokines which will now try to protect those cancer cells, and that results in the same macrophage leading to tumor promotion. Okay, so the tumor suppressing macrophage, this is called as polarization process, which is induced by cancer cells due to hypoxic condition. Because cancer cells grow on top of each other, so there is a hypoxic condition. So this was a major problem. And we actually tested whether our compound can prevent the transformation of M1 to M2, and it could prevent completely, and we have published this also, and we got the award for that paper, as it is already indicated. So it is now clear that component is functioning also like an immunonutrient. Now, do we have epigenetic modifiers in the diet? Because I told you like epigenetics also play a key role. I just give you one example here. Well, look at this yellow mouse, which is now LTR hypomethylated modification in the epigenetics. So they have high risk for cancer, diabetes, and obesity, and they have reduced lifespan. But if you supplement zinc, methionine, choline, and folate, and B12, which are donors of the methyl group, so the hypomethylation will become now hypermethylated. And this hypermethylated, you will see obviously the transformation of this into agouti mouse, which is now having the lower risk of cancer, diabetes, obesity, and they are now free of this and they have prolonged lifespan. So diet has a potential tool in controlling the epigenetic modification also, as I told you, because of the components, the donors of the methyl.
Madam, that same mouse has modified.
Same in the sense, it is given during embryonic development. Not the same.
Yeah, that's
Because it will also happen, but there is so much of severity there. It is screwed up. Metabolites. It is not able to recover. So you just use them, and next generation you can see. So there are a lot of other components which will also result in complications in cancer. So ultimately, I just want to say that lot of components are changing. So when we are targeting only one molecule, our question was, can diet actually take control of many changes which are happening? And that can be studied through microarray. So I'll just give you a simple example here. These are healthy, and these are the ones with cancer induction. You can see a lot of red, like it is a color code, and these are the ones which are given with a known anti-cancer drug, and these are the ones which were now treated with our compound. So that definitely, you can see a quantitative number here, it definitely has given more protection than the known anti-cancer drug. And I will just give you the fold also here. And this is another component, like there are several genes which are now altered, and you can see several folds, and I have taken up to like 10 genes with more than 10-fold increase. And these are now like we tested with the treatment with a similar compound which was already tested are there in US, that was labeled as S13, and these are the molecules which we have developed in the laboratory. As you can see here, the fold decrease was not very good from that of the cancer induced, and that is why they were not very effective in controlling cancer. And look at this here. And these are the ones which were treated with a component what we have identified, and you can see more or less they became normal. So ultimately, it gives us definitely a like confidence that it can protect. And another, of course, the support came from the glycan array. Again, I will not be getting into the details here. So you can see, just study this one here. Like you have in the induced tumor cancer condition, you have increased sialylation, that is a terminal sugar residue. And these are the ones which are now treated with a drug. So it, from 90, it reduced to 79. So that is because of reduction in the number of cells. Let's say there is reduction in the proliferation. However, with our compound, it is actually came back to almost normal. So that means that this, so of course we also analyzed those with the glycan array, and we could show that similarly, like some of the altered structures were normalized. That has got a significance in terms of cell-cell communication and cell regulation. So now we can explain like how this component, dietary component, was helping the cancer cell to die and boost the immune system. So this is again just one more study by Hasita. Like gut microbiota plays a very key role in the progression and also for therapy. So during therapy, what happens? Cancer patients, like they are also affecting their gut microbiota. So we have a beneficial microorganism in our gut. You can see that here, healthy control, we have 2,208 colonies of bifido and also lactobacillus, and it is reduced to 36 in case of cancer patients. That is why they have lots of disturbances in their bowel movements and in their absorption capacity, etc., etc. And now these are the ones with concentrations with the blocker what we have identified from the diet, and you can see a significant increase, and this is with a known component, known drug. So we can again by multiple through different techniques we could show that the dietary component can function effectively, but we have to use a strategy for that. And this is the one which was now confirmed by blind study. So that is the next step. So we had to give to somebody else without telling our results, and that is what was done in the blind study from Tata Institute. These are the ones which are not treated in the xenograft model, and these are the ones which are now treated with a chemotoxic drug. But you can see that here the toxicity was so high that the animals, although tumor was less, animals could not survive because of the toxicity. And now you have again reduced tumor here, but they could survive. And this is with intravenous. This is with the oral mode, and this is with the intravenous. So intravenous get less toxicity also and get more protection. So there is yet another powerful tool one has to use. So we need to explore stem cell therapy, and again I will not be getting into the details here. That is essential because all chemotherapeutic drugs which are targeting the tumor, they kill no doubt the cancer cells, but the conventional therapy, they kill all cancer cells, but they leave out the stem cells, and these cancer stem cells are enough to make the tumor relapse. So what we essentially need is something which actually kills cancer stem cells, and let alone just the cancer cell. We don't have to target the cancer cell, we can only target the cancer stem cells. So that strategy is much easier because we don't have to worry about like differentially active, differentially functioning abnormal millions of cells in the tumor, but we can actually target the stem cell. So with this, actually, we expect to not only eliminate the stem cell, but also the without the stem cells, this tumor also will be regressed. And we had a study result report from Switzerland, which showed since we had no machine for that, it could kill the stem cells. That is why it was very effective. I am not showing the data here, but we have the data. Now, I spoke about, like I just gave you a picture with the coronavirus. So how it is connected to cancer? So that's a big question because we know that there is a virus, the role of virus in inducing cancer, and we don't know much about the coronavirus. But still, we have to be very cautious about what it can cause in future. So first of all, it is sufficient to even believe that cancer patients are most affected because they're already having immune deficiency. Therefore, they are more susceptible. They have to be protected well. And like what is now the trend with the pandemic? Again, we come back to the same hypothesis, and we know that it is we are targeting this viral genome hypothesis. So I gave you this as a separate hypothesis. But with this, like once you have this virus entering into the host cell and making the cell proliferate continuously, and now we are talking also about the chemical carcinogenicity, the drug which are given to patients, and drugs which are not tested 100% that its safety, because of out of emergency and outburst, to control the outburst it is given, so that can still can cause chemical carcinogenicity. So although COVID-19 coronavirus is being targeted, we are not still ensured that it is safe to the body. And we know very well that it can be again immunodefect, like it can cause immunodeficiency because it can kill immune cells also. And altered growth factor hypothesis, this is one of the key hypotheses which is laid down for cancer. Kinases are getting activated, but you believe me, the coronavirus is activating lots of kinases.
Madam, then still why doctors are vaccinated? All medical.
See, I told you, this is an emergency situation. We have to sort of control. See, like police comes, we call the police to control the situation if there is a mob crowd. They come, and what they do, they also damage. They hit people, they do something, and they shoot. So they know that it is affecting some people, but it was necessary to control the entire mob. So that is the situation here, because we don't know anything and we have to somehow control. So that is what I told you. Like now there is a connectivity through multiple. There is a possibility that it can actually multiple problems can occur, which actually support the susceptibility to cancer. Do we have evidence, or I'm simply saying it because I have no right to simply predict. Now, these are all the examples, like viruses which can cause cancer, as I told you already. Like people die out of cancer although they have viral infection before. So that is very clear. But now we are talking about the facts with the coronavirus. So it is also true with Helicobacter pylori, which is one of the major culprit. 80% of stomach cancer is actually caused by Helicobacter pylori, not necessarily virus. So it is mainly the pathogens which are dependent on the host cell, which manipulates the host cell for its own benefit. So this is exclusively COVID-19 virus. Look at the location, the kinases which are now activated, phosphorylated by COVID-19. So obviously it is promoting the altered growth factor hypothesis. That means that growth factors are increased, therefore there is increased proliferation of cells, and obviously it is uncontrolled. So people are now looking for kinase inhibitors, whether it can be anti-COVID also, and it is still going on. And a very interesting thing which I came out in the literature, because I looked for it, because I had a reason to believe it also. So look at this human galectin-3. So far I spoke about this, which is a component responsible for causing spread, cancer cells spread into the entire body. I looked at this particularly because there is also just the entry of the virus is not actually making the person critical. It is the spread which is making the person critical. Then I thought, what could be the spreading component here? So look at this. This is COVID coronavirus. Look at the structure. There is lot of homology here, except in the glycan part. Here it is sialic acid and here it is galactose. That's all. So rest of the proteins are not. Now, I believe that mechanism could be similar in terms of virus spread and also cancer spread. This needs to be tested again. And we can, if that is true, we can question the galectin-3 inhibitor, which we now spoke about, can inhibit corona infection also. So it's already there, a potential role of galectin-3 inhibitors in the treatment of COVID-19. It's already, one report from authentic paper. So that means that our, conceptualization is right, and we need to move in this direction. Of course, I will skip here. Like, we need to question ourselves. I spoke about the wonderful activity of our component, but does it match the trends of medicine in 21st century? So that means that we have to compare this with pharmaceutics and not necessarily only with nutraceutics, and that is where we need to study nutrigenomics as we study pharmacogenomics in order to confirm the activity of a particular drug. And that is very essential and more promising because, like, look at this. The nutrition has the ability to stop the metabolic stress and the disease condition to a maximum extent as long as we maintain the nutritional component properly. But once it goes out of the boundary, then you will see the requirement of pharma. Till then, we can actually manage with nutrition, which has no side effect. So obviously, nutritional component can be given, more weightage in order to delay the process of even the complicated disease. So that is where the foodomic approach. I talked about all genomics. Now foodomic approach is necessary. You put one food and then study all the genes. And again, I will not be getting into the details. And that is just not enough. Put this in the genome consortium, and you have to integrate the data from the globe. And there is already an international group, compiling this. But the end result is that nutrition is like shoes. One size doesn't fit all. That means that we have to enter into what is called as personalized medicine, as we also talk about the same thing in the drug. Personalized and disease specific nutrition and nutraceuticals should be now arrived at studying the patient and also the dietary component. But with this, the Peter Greenwald, who is a very pioneer in the field, says that someday people should be able to avoid the drug, avoid the chronic diseases or delay the process, its onset by taking specially formulated pills, not from the pharma industry, but from the dietary components itself. But still, long way to go. And of course, the Human Genome Project certainly will help. So for the time being, we'll now try to just console ourselves that we are like what we eat and what our mother ate, because epigenetic changes are from the earlier experiences. Not only that, grandmother ate, because what your mother carries from your grandmother, so that is also important. And ultimately, it's just not enough. It's also what our gut microbiome eats. So we have to nourish them also. So we hopefully we will come to a stage where nutraceuticals are now balancing with pharmaceuticals, but not necessarily that we should use it under distress condition, and that would be more pleasing for us. And there is a great promise, and we hope to move in the same direction. So thank you for your attention.
Madam, what do you comment on the breast cancer patient, Angelina Jolie?
Huh.
So, I mean, regarding her diet and the cancer, and she has taken a monoclonal antibody. What's your comment on that?
Like it's there. If you look at the origin of the disease, it's mainly also due to one of the steroidal dysregulator, which is again due to the component coming from the diet itself, soya. Like and of course, not all forms of soya give that, and soya, it has got phytoestrogens. So that was actually imbalanced, and you could see dysregulation in the breast cancer cells. Again, it's a dietary component which needs to be now worked out and figure out, eliminate. It is in a food processing manner. So it's already now going on. Food processing is being done to eliminate this so that you don't unnecessarily activate the cells. And that will also result in cancer.
Her mutation is BRCA AG.
BRCA1, BRCA2, and that is because of this. There is also that is aromatase enzyme. In fact, the dietary component also has steroidal dehydrogenase component. Again, it is through epigenetic modification. So one of our postdoc student, he did that work. BRCA1, BRCA2 is controlled.
She is taking the monoclonal antibodies, so that what she is.
Probably she is from that direction, like probably from the immunology field. So obviously she thinks in that direction, monoclonal antibody, which will block similarly as this molecule is blocking. But targets are different. So there it is the receptor, and here it is the molecule which is initiating the spread itself. So the targets are different, but the effect could be the same.
So now you suggest them to go for after this for the fast food?
Now, they have to tell me, because I heard from madam that often students are falling down in the class, and what I have also observed is just not falling down, they get freaked out, stress. Oh, I got so much work, no, I cannot manage this at home. In the class they can't sit, and they cannot take so much class. That is all because of their self-concealment, that they cannot manage. That is freaking out. So showing your inability to withstand, that means that you are showing your helplessness. And that is all due to, like, you are bombarding the stress. The stress is because of accumulated oxidants. When you get excited, you get oxidants. And if you take enough fruit juices, good fruits and vegetables, it will actually be curbed. So you will see that now you don't see that kind of unnecessary excitement. I would say it is unnecessary excitement, because it is leading into some harmness of it. So it's okay at home, because your mother may feel sympathy for you. Oh, okay, you have so much work in the college, I will do everything, please sit down. No, you work to your ability. You make use of your own body cells. You nurture yourselves. You know that you have to nurture.
Otherwise, one day or the other, we are making ourselves deficit of something which will result in disease condition. Now you decide what you want to be. You want to be a diseased person and be a burden to the family, or you want to help others, telling that you take good food, good diet, you will be all right, and I will support you. We will nourish our immune system. Okay. So you will, which direction you all want to go? Madam wants healthiness. And of course, I don't know about all of you. That means that you remember genes we cannot alter. Sir is also here. It is there. But we can actually modify its malfunctionality with the diet. See, we have a building which is already damaged, let us say. But we can always protect them giving pillars. We cannot say, we cannot give up. Oh, okay, let it fall. It will fall one day, no doubt. But if you can protect, why not? Isn't it? So make your choice. Thank you. If there are any other questions?
Thank you, madam. The lecture was very informative. Now I call upon Esther for the vote of thanks.
Good evening, all. Honorable Chief Guest, invited delegates, esteemed speakers, chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. I deem it a great privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this felicitous occasion. Firstly, on behalf of everyone, I thank the Almighty for the blessings throughout the day. I deeply extend my gratitude to our Chief Guest, Dr. Mewa Singh, for gracing us with his presence despite his bustling schedule. It was certainly an honor for having you here among us. A big thank you to you, sir. The day was spent well with erudite seminars, with quick-witted orators who apprised us with the colossal knowledge. Thank you all for your time and resourceful presentations. I also express my thanks to our professor, Dr. Ramachandra, for being here with us. I also thank the other invited professors and delegates for ennobling this event. I extend my deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to our chairperson, Dr. Sutur S. Malini, for organizing such an edifying seminars and assisting us in all possible paths for whittling our knowledge. And I also brazenly like to mention that this is the first program conducted in the IOE auditorium after its modern renovations with convenient tech. Thank you, ma'am, for these arrangements. I would like to thank our professors, teaching and non-teaching staffs of the Department of Zoology and Genetics for their prodigious synergy throughout the program. I also thank the technical support team for handling the offline and online sessions well. I warm-heartedly thank the entire audience for their presence online and offline, for cordial cooperation and great retaliation towards the seminars and making this a stupendous one. And I thank you all once again. Thank you all for your presence here today. Kindly feel free to treat yourselves with the refreshments which is still available. Thank you all.